me see who this is. It just called me quick. All right, they removed my number from the calling list. And have a great day. Thank you. Whoa. The calling list. Okay, sound's working now. Welcome back, everybody.
When someone lacks humility, you can't teach them.
Oh my God.
A leader has to be balanced.
What the fuck?
The older I get, the less I know. One of the things that I realize in the leadership position is that the words that you say matter, the actions you take matter.
It all fucking matters, bros.
People are watching.
Everybody's listening. Everybody's watching. If they say they're not,
you based on how you carry
eventually
yourself.
they'll see. They'll respect you as they want.
Are almost the same word, right?
Life isn't supposed to be easy.
Trust. Now you can have a bad relationship, and what does that mean? That means there's
you
no
gotta
trust.
do what's hard.
We have a bad relationship. The way I build trust with people is I give them trust. That's how I build trust. I give it. I give trust to build trust. People are watching. If I micromanage you and I don't let you make any decisions yourself, well, you're never going to step up and learn how to lead because you don't get to make any decisions.
How many left? 50?
Would you rather win or be liked? Well, I'm going to tell you, those aren't opposites. The team that likes each other, they win. I'm trying to take the lessons that I was lucky enough to learn and get into as many people as I can so they don't have to suffer through the same mistakes that I made. I mean, you're always going to have regret. You know, I don't spend a lot of time with regret, you know, because there's not much that you can do about it. Yeah. So what the way I look at regret is, what did I learn from it? What did I learn from whatever thing I'm looking at that I know I could have done a better job, could have done different? There's a million things like that, but I don't sit there and think about them all day long. What I think is like, hey, here's the lessons that I learned from them. I won't make those mistakes again and move forward. Every single day for me, it starts at ground zero. I've got to go forward with an open mind, with a humble mind, looking at the world. When somebody gives you feedback, you listen to it. Number one, you got to be humble. And if you're not humble, you're not looking for feedback and you're not listening to it. No feedback, no improvement. Feedback is built upon being
160, bros.
Everything that I look at, I try and look at from a humble perspective. And if you don't do that, it's going to be a problem. If I'm looking down the sights of my weapon and I'm shooting, my world is this big. The minute that I stop shooting, point my weapon at high court, take a step back, and actually look around, I can see infinitely more.
I got a crazy lap pump right now, guys.
As a leader, you should be
got my shirt all bunched up
90% of the time and talking 2% of the time.
You will need to normalize in your mind walking alone. You gotta get up on your own. You gotta be able to make big decisions on your own. You gotta lose weight on your own. There are a myriad of targets you have to hit by yourself. Oftentimes, people go away into a very healthy isolation to equip themselves.
That's what I'm fucking doing.
To educate themselves, to come out empowered. And so you gotta get into this workspace where you can do it by yourself. It doesn't matter if it's the office, it doesn't matter if it's the gym, it doesn't matter if it's the court, it doesn't matter if it's the field, it doesn't matter what arena you are stepping into. You gotta get to that place where you don't need attention, you don't need recognition, you don't need the accolades, you just wanna put in
You just gotta do the fucking work.
The next time you
Come on up.
It's game over.
Oh, this fucking comeback. I'm telling you, it's personal. I owe this one to myself.
You see it, Wolf.
I'm going to see my absolute craziest, best physique yet. I promise. And I know for a fact, from trial and error and experience and years of bodybuilding, that it's not all about the weight. It's about how bad you want it and how you utilize your 24 hours every single day. How obsessed you are willing to be with your training, nutrition, and healing, and mindset. and planning, posing, all of it. It all matters. And I was born for this shit. I got this. 120, 160.
I'm going to build it. All I have is all I need. Resources may come and go. People may come and go. But I've got a vision, and I've got the provision, and I've got the determination and the discipline to hit my aims and to punch through my targets. If you do this thing without attention, if you do this thing without public affirmation, if you do this thing without people telling you that you're everything, without people applauding you and saying you're great, you're awesome, oh, you're amazing, and you do this thing alone, can you be your own cheerleader for a moment? Can you be your own hype man for a moment? Can you tell you I'm good enough? I got this. That all I have is all I need. I believe in friendships and partnerships and counsel and advice. But there are some things in life you are going to have to do alone. There are some arenas you're going to have to show up in, and nobody is coming. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's coming to show you a shortcut. You got to figure this out on your own.
Hey.
For most of us,
Holy
nobody's gonna feed us.
fucking shit.
You got to feed yourself.
You gotta feed yourself.
You want to lose the weight? You want to reach your target, your aim? You got to put the work in. You got to feed yourself the food that is required to power the body that you want.
Ain't that real?
It's not about trying to be a lone ranger more than it is about taking responsibility and prioritizing yourself first. There are some things in life nobody's gonna show up.
Bro, I feel
It's
crazy
all
right
on
now. I feel crazy right now.
It's all on me.
Oh, I almost want to do the fucking 1,000 squat challenge again.
Ultimately, I gotta go get this degree.
Maybe we do it like
Certification,
300 of those today too.
I've got to finish strong. I've got to get this.
We'll do 3 sets.
I've got to go get the education. I've got to get out of bed. I've got to go to the gym. I've got to eat clean. Nobody's gonna feed
30
me.
more reps, come on.
So,
Sip of water.
if you're listening to me right now in the gym, on your walk, on your run, you're lifting, you're building, you're creating, you're imagining something, I just need you to push. And I need you to believe that you don't need the spider, that you don't need the training wheels, that it is your time, that it is your turn, and you no longer need help, you no longer need assistance in this area of your life. Push like you have never pushed before.
Okay.
Give it everything you have, because that spider is not going to be there for you.
Come on, Trav, up.
If you want to grow,
Oh,
1
yeah.
millimeter more. If you want to push a little harder. Everybody wants to grow a little harder, so we got to push a little harder.
You got one more. Come on up, big dog.
All of your life. At some point, you gotta say, I got this. I got this.
Roar.
Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I got this.
I got this.
I got this.
I got
If I
this.
have to do it alone,
I got
will.
this.
Because to fulfill this vision, to fulfill my destiny, ultimately, I'm depending on the God that put the dream in my heart.
How fucking bad do you want it?
With tears in your eyes, with broken hands and a heavy heart. If nobody
How bad?
and you are in a room by yourself, start alone.
20 more.
Help is coming. But everything rises and falls on you. Oftentimes, the people that you wanted in your life will reject you, and that rejection is protection. It is a blessing because it's the same people that rejected you that will need you and that will rely on you. Come on, how many people have you tried to help when you were bleeding, battered, and broken? How many times have you called for help and the help was toxic? Come on, how many times have you asked for advice and the advice brought more adversity? Take responsibility for yourself. Take control
up to
of
you.
your life. I need you to understand your
How
worth
bad?
and stop playing the blame game.
How bad?
Because 9 times out of 10, the people that hurt you, you brought them into your life.
Yeah.
And so you got to reflect over the past.
Come on now, Trav.
Acknowledge the present, and you have to cast vision for your future and take accountability. And kill the self-condemnation. Stop tearing yourself down on the inside. Stop saying one thing, thinking another, and acting in a whole
Never again.
How you think is how you talk, and how you talk must be how you behave. Because
Never.
Your behavior, and your behavior determines your future. And so everything's got to line up. And so you need an alignment. And alignment.
Not
I can't align.
settle.
You got to make a decision
Up.
to align yourself. You can make a decision, but every day you have to make that decision. That decision has to evolve into discipline. And discipline changes the mind. And that's what momentum. You're not going to always feel right. When you stand alone, you possess a power that few.
Get up, Trav. Oh, fuck. That's 9, bro. I'm not taking that. That don't count. That's 9, bud.
We've all heard this before. You need to believe and know that your one decision, one relationship, one meeting, one book, one thought, one.
Oh, I have 11 now. I think I'm gonna do it in 2 sets. My shit is
what I would call almost
fatigued.
In spite of my insecurity. Think about superhuman confidence in spite of my insecurity. It's an effort play. If you don't have self-confidence, you've never kept the promises you make to yourself. Check that box. If you have self-confidence,
hey, we got some pit stains.
If you want to have superhuman self-confidence, you keep the promises you make to yourself and one more.
And one more.
So if I'm going to get up and I'm going to work out, I'm going to do 10 reps in the gym, I do one more.
I'm going to do fucking thousands instead.
I'm going to make 10 contacts in a day. I do that, and one more. I'm going to tell my daughter I love her every day. I'm going to do that.
Okay.
And one
5 and 4.
We don't get our goals. We
Make them count.
And so
make them count.
Is one more. What starts to happen is you go, I'm willing to do things other people aren't willing to do.
Oh, I know that for a
And
fucking fact.
That I have great faith, great associations, and I intend to help people. This is a formula to build wonderful self-confidence and never lack humility when you have it. Never link your confidence to your ability. If it's predicated on your abilities or your achievements, you're always going to be chasing it. But if you link your confidence to your intentions, man, you have beautiful intentions, and that is something I knew about. And all of this is carrying the bag of, I'm not going to make this mistake, I have this mistake, and this relationship didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you're qualified. That's the thing that qualifies you. The humanness in you.
Okay.
You are the only human being with your combination of gifts that you were given, whatever they are, and your experience. And real human beings help real human beings by being vulnerable and transparent, saying, I know where you are. I've messed up worse. I've made greater mistakes. I felt worse. I know that depression. I know that anxiety. I know that shame. I know what that feels like.
Oh. Okay.
You're one away, one relationship, one meeting, one person, one thought away from changing your life.
So how do we let go of the past?
Well, we have to create a compelling future. In other words, you're not going to let go of one thing until you've grabbed onto the next.
You have to create a new future.
You have to create a future. And by the way, it's okay that you don't believe all of it initially, as long as it becomes repetitive and we begin to take steps towards it, right? So for me, I still have stuff from my past. There's still a little part of me that doesn't want to be broke. There's still a little bit of fear.
You're not broke.
Yeah, but I mean, you've interviewed some of the most successful actors and entertainers, so have I. And you get them privately, and sometimes on your show they go, you afraid it's going to go away? They go, yeah, I am. That's why I work so hard. So there's an element of that that's okay. It's creating this vision for your life that's compelling. Can you survive the temporary? And if you can survive the temporary, it says on the other side of temporary pain,
Always.
you get introduced to your other self.
Always, bros.
And that other self produces that other life. And so here's what happens for most of us. We think everything's permanent. Because we think it's permanent, we make permanent decisions based on temporary conditions. Even our bodies, even our souls.
Permanent.
Your body isn't permanent. Your problem isn't. Your pain is
Permanent decisions based on temporary situations. What you're feeling, what you're going through. You can't. You got to be able to realize that this too shall pass.
Yeah, but if you consider yourself on the other side of this,
and rationalize
yourself,
and be able to make those strategic,
the hardest working you've ever met,
long-term
the most crazy
decisions
focus you've ever met,
for your
is the
life
happiest you've ever
and
been
not
in your
feel
life. And the truth of the matter is that most of you don't understand the
guilty
effort,
about
the
it.
drive, the focus, the
People will try to make you feel that way
great with your life.
when you're going after your
You have
dreams.
to get great, and you have to be intentional. You have to be
This life is
obsessive.
short.
I know what you put into this. I know what the time is.
And they don't know what you put into
I know
this.
what the focus is. I know what you think
They
about.
don't
I
know how
this
hard
has to be
you've worked.
something that's just infectious, and when people get
See,
around
you-
you, it
when it's
emanates,
time
and
to
there's
jump,
energy, and there's like, this person's just going to will this to happen.
never,
I think just most
ever
people dramatically underestimate
hold guilt
the
in your
amount
heart
of obsessive,
for doing what's
crazy,
best for you,
relentless focus
when you
it
know
takes
it's
to be
best
great at something.
for all the
And then they
people
go,
that you're
"Oh,
going to
I
help
wanna get out of balance or control."
in the
Maybe you
future.
wanna be great.
Amen.
My default personality is insecure.
Even today.
Even today.
Come on.
Very much.
Really?
Very much.
How is that default? You wake up and you say, I'm a nobody, or what? What's the
I lack
story?
this. I'm fooling everybody.
Really?
If they really knew, you know, I've always tried to disqualify myself. I was bullied as a kid. My dad was an alcoholic. I wasn't a real big guy. I disqualify myself because, you know, the truth is that maybe for a while, everything that I got that was love when I was a child only came when I achieved something. I wasn't good in school. The only thing I was good at was sports. So my default is tons of insecurity. I love to beat myself up with mistakes I've made. I did this, I did that. I should have done this, I didn't do that. And I've always thought these mistakes, these weaknesses of mine, disqualify me from being happy or helping people.
That's 200, baby.
The confidence part is a thing
Come on
I'm
now.
always gonna have to work on.
Even today, even with all the success and the massive show and the big businesses and all the homes and everything that people see,
Yeah.
what else do you need though to feel more
I
confident?
don't need other things. It's an internal game. The stuff is really fleeting and temporary. So it's not stuff. What needs to happen for me is that I'm most confident when I'm living in my intention, which is to serve. Like, that's a beautiful expression of a man. A real man is capable of real love. That's a sign of real strength. And what we do is we gravitate toward the familiar emotions in our life, even if they're not ones that serve us. And I don't think there's negative or positive emotions. I say this in the book. There just are.
Yes.
Fear isn't negative. Fear in abundance is negative. Some frustration, some anger is appropriate. It's the dosage level. And we get these 4 or 5 of them. For me, some chaos is okay. It's fun. It's exciting. It's exhilarating, right? But getting it every day, every week, every month, all the time, chaos is my gateway emotion to the ones I don't want. Chaos gives me stress. Chaos gives me anger. Chaos gives me frustration. Chaos gives me fear. I used to think, well, that's a superpower though, because I've created all these external, look what I made, look what I did. And I'm doing it because of that. The truth is I did it in spite of it. And there's a lot of things in our lives that we have linked to our formula, our recipe of success that we hold on to, that you've done in spite of those things, not because of those things. But my dad knew I was a dreamer, and my dad would always say, you know, I was one decision away from changing my life the whole time. One choice. And he'd say, Eddie, you're not as far away from these dreams as you think you are. And I'd say, really, Dad? He goes, no, you're actually a lot closer than you think. But because you think it's so far away, you behave in accordance with that belief system, and it always keeps it that far away from you. If the things most important to you are your worries, fears, anxieties, problems, bills, you will continue to have people, places, and things revealed to you that confirm it. My definition of greatness is that you create a life that matches your vision for your life. And that's greatness, no matter what that looks like for you.
I get up at 3 because it's silent. It's easier to be focused when the environment is focused. Most of you wake up and you try to make money. Listen to me. If you would make you, money would come to you. Okay, you missed that whole thing I just said. If you would make you a better person, you'd make more money. Now, watch what I do. The way people spend their money or treat their money is how I treat my time.
Hey.
Let me explain what I mean.
I just finished the pull-ups,
I
bro.
make sure that every single day, in that 24-hour period,
We did it in
a whole bunch of wins.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18
Man, I was
sets.
in the back with Cole. Cole was like, "E, I got this opportunity for you.
Now we're gonna go into
When you become number one, you have
the
to
cable
face
pull downs now, bros. I'll probably do 10 sets of 100. 10 sets of 100.
I know that I have ways of doing in this industry what nobody else does, and I kick out in this industry. I carved out my own room. And your problem is you
100 pounds.
knocking on doors trying to get the result. Somebody at 100%, and you wondering why they ain't working because while you're
I got a bear next to me.
they are.
All right.
So why do I put
Whoa.
more emphasis on time than I put on money? They trick money.
Quads are fucking on fire.
So I'm gonna say it one more time. You are worshiping the thing that they make every day. They don't make time every day.
They don't make time every day.
Ain't nobody put time. I ain't get them yet. I ain't make no millionaire.
Count with me, bros. Here we go.
I ain't make no institution. I ain't make no company. I ain't make nobody print money. So why are you spending more time on the thing they print every day than the thing, you know why? Because you're not developing and you're following other people. And you understand that the real thing is time and you ain't got to line up it. You start focusing on your time and you get your time right, money will come. Some people go to God once every 10 years. I'm going every other month. Why? When you master yourself, you put yourself in a position that a lot of people can't do what you
Should be good now.
What's the best place in the world for vitamin D?
The one Mike died.
Southern California. What's the best
That was
temperature in the world? In the
first 100,
United States
chat.
of America, San Diego, California.
Let's write them out so we don't lose track.
9,900.
You still here, brother?
Right there. I said San Diego, I'm hunting down. You're moving to San Diego. Why? I don't care about San Diego. My wife. In the first year, last year, we were in San Diego. My wife said to me, we were back in Michigan when the summer came. My wife said, you know something? I said, what? She said, I never took a nap in California. I said, what you mean by that? She said, the sun energizes, and I never needed to take a nap.
This is not gonna be easy.
The reason why most of you can't do what you do, you get
Not even just on my abs, but my arms too.
it ain't stronger than the beat down take.
It's you're stabilizing the weight with your arms the entire time. So you're getting an arm workout as well. But I love this shit. Let's go.
No, I feel you. You need to stay down. Because life gonna beat you. You talking about making millions, life gonna beat you down.
Set 2.
Millions, multi-millions, billions, life gonna beat you down.
100 more reps
So when you feel a pain and you get knocked out, stay down.
with 100 pounds.
You trial, you tribulate, I will my way through it. I don't care if it's cancer, I will my way through it. I don't care if it's MS, I will my way through it. I don't care if
Will your way through.
I will my way through it. I don't care if you fail the boards, go again. I don't care if you fail the law exam, go again, will your way through it. Some things you can skill yourself through, some stuff you gotta will your way through. Without vision, there's no direction. Without direction, there's no progress. The reason why you're struggling getting up is you don't have nothing to get up for. I'm the best ever. There's no one that can match me. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. They're gonna fear me. You have to be a champion before you become a champion.
Amen. I always knew before I won.
Look at somebody, I want to do this. You don't say, hey, I'm a bad mother. I want to fight everybody out there. No, they're going to take my ass. You see somebody and say, hey, I might want to do that. What weakness is when you make your illusion your reality. It's not possible for somebody who's going to try. If you're going to try, it's capable of being done. Will you fight Tyson Fury? I fight a lion if the Tyson fight. My whole objective is your total surrender, your total domination. I'm going to destroy you. Like Logan said, when you watched you, you were human. Your rage is a very unique rage. So that's what folks do to me. I look at my skin and something you look for. I respect the person who willing to die for what he truly wants. I mean, if it wasn't one like nobody that ever lived in my he believed he could jump into his opponent. Really look at how did Ali beat George Foreman? How does Ali beat Tom Listen? How do you beat these guys? How do you even beat Joe Frazier? Fighting the way he fights. He beats them because he refused to lose. But we have to believe that we're divine and that we learn from our experiences. Confidence breeds success and success breeds confidence. They go hand in hand. You have to know who you are. You know, I know who I am. People think they're great all the time. They this, you that. Whatever it is, I know who I am. Our self-love is nothing. Self-love is different. You just want to do what you think you do it if you love it. Never want to be obscure. There's one obscurity and I never want to deal with everything. I'm invincible, I'm a savage, I'm solution. Smart and savage. The world is going to die before I became champ. When this is over, everybody's going to know my name. Did you ever fight somebody that you were like, that they got you? Did you ever kid that got you? Or not? Absolutely. In order to be good, you have to lose to understand loss. Because loss is life.
make the strong stronger or the weak weak? 11, 12, 13, what happens next? So get arrested, and I see my mom leave because of the distribution that I'm in.
You said you were in jail and Ali shows up?
I'm 12 years old and Ali comes there and they showed the movie The Greatest first, so this is 77. And after the movie, the lights come on and Ali comes in. And I see him like, wow, I want to be just like him. I don't know how that happened, the spirit hit me, boom, I want to be like him. And then I get transferred to this other facility, you know, for real bad kids. I met a gentleman there that was a boxer that used to teach me how to box. So he
Wow.
took me to a great trainer named Customato, and that's why I'm here. I respected Ali and I worship Ali. Yeah, this is the moment I know I wanted to be a fighter.
Unfreaking story. So your inspiration happened at 12 years old.
Yeah.
Then you meet Cuz.
Yes.
How was Cuz treating you? What was his way of leading you?
This degree of just peeling all that dirt and stuff, that insecurity and developing into character. And that's why I had a wonderful time with him, because everything about his life was about me. This world is one big school, and we're the students.
Oh my God.
The mind is always hungry. The mind wants to do
Wow,
good,
bros.
but we get so
Feeling
many
crazy right now.
negative thoughts in our minds, almost overwhelming to be positive.
In a good way.
Listen, I've been down and up, broken up, and why am I
That's
still
200. We got 800 more to go. Come on.
here? Life's gonna give everybody
Stay
a bad
focused.
hand. No one's gonna leave here without being tried in life.
That's for sure.
So inspiration. So is that what got you to be willing to be disciplined to get what you want, like to become a champion? At 14 years old, I'm willing to do everything it takes to be a champion?
Absolutely. And then I had Cuss over there telling me why should he have it? That's one thing I never had in my life. Because I always got picked on, and I never had jealousy or enviness about anything. And Cuss possessed that. You know,
100 pounds,
why should he have all that money?
100 reps, 100 pounds,
all know this. When you're in pain, your body wants one thing.
Hello.
To remove yourself from the pain.
I think I fixed it. Hello,
When
hello.
things are uncomfortable,
All right, that's better.
your default is to seek out those aforementioned parking spaces. Reprieve.
All right, my mind needs to slow down. That's better.
Your default is to seek
Slow
out
down.
those aforementioned parking spaces.
This freaking boom arm fell off. Okay, I got this. Yeah, lower it a little bit. This fucking clip underneath. These little tasks. My other mics just died, and then the rechargeable charging case is dead. So we're going to switch to the Shure. But guess what? This was meant to happen tonight, chat. Because now I'm going to sing in here afterward. This is how the universe works sometimes. Mics die just so I can get the singing mic, the Shure here, set up. Hey, welcome. Wired to the world. Welcome. First time chatter here. Welcome to the Spartan Warriors, brother. It's going well. Blessed and grateful. I'm finishing up 700 more of these abdominal pull downs. I'm going to make sure the correct mic is programmed right now. And I don't think it is, actually. Where the fuck are you guys hearing me from? I feel like it's through this or through the cam. Wait. Maybe it is this. So much is going on right now. Okay, let's make sure this is plugged in. Yep. Should be on Scarlet, this one. Aha. Check. Yeah, it's definitely good. It was probably still on that, but I went to sound settings to make sure. And now I'm certain the correct mic is programmed. The wireless ones are plugged in now with the USB-C cord charging. I'm going to put the motivation back on. I'm going to go into my own little AirPod world with my phone music. I might do this healing frequency again, actually. And then, yeah, another set of 100.
From the grasp of the unknown. Things aren't perfect, then I'm done here. Things feel awkward or uncomfortable or unclear, then why bother? What I want to do right now is make the argument that it's most important to continue forward when we're in these moments. It's most critical to move forward when the road is unclear.
Here we go,
and those tempting parking spaces start revealing themselves. Things are not perfect, maybe even far from perfect. And this is right about the time when we forget why we start. I've run into this in my past, right? Particularly with injuries. There was a period in my not too distant past when my ankle and shoulder were simultaneously messed up, right? So couldn't run, couldn't really do any upper body work. My physical activity really took a dive, right? So I'm a little discouraged. And sure enough, I found the eat whatever you want parking space. It's like, who cares? You're not working out. What's the point? Just focus on the business. Put a pause on all that stuff. And then eating whatever I wanted became, well, what's the point of getting up at 5 when I could just get up at 7? I sleep 2 hours longer is how I rationalized it. It's not like I'm going to be running. And then there goes some very important alone time, thinking time, and you can see how easily the wheels sort of fall off the wagon. Not because you're a bad person or don't want the result, but because the second things stop being perfect or working the way I wanted them to, I found a parking space. There will be few stretches of time in life when everything's perfect. Things going exactly how you want them to. It will simply be the exception, not the rule. And then the question becomes, can you put your head down and continue forward, knowing that life will call for adaptation and adjustment? But that those tempting exit signs are not for you. They are weakness. They are for those who forget their strength and their courage. I mentioned a little while ago that growth is fighting two demons. Saying yes to the mountain ahead and no to the off-ramps. But when you step back and look at things different, you change the dynamic. You put the odds in your favor. When the off-ramps become reminders of your strength as you pass them one by one, indicators of your commitment to move forward. And when the mountain ahead becomes merely the way, not some giant sacrifice or monster, but merely a path, things simplify in a way that empowers you on your mission. There is no perfect or imperfect. There is adjusting when necessary and taking the next little step along the way. And using the previous example, it's like, I'm injured, okay? This will definitely be a time for adjustment. Maybe it's yoga, stretching, practicing being more patient, maybe greater emphasis on meditation, mental strength, whatever it is, but we don't stop. We continue stepping forward. The next step will look a little different, but that's all. If perfect is a standard one seeking to maintain, they'll always be pulling over. They'll always be backing off, because very rarely do we have stretches of perfection. Life is an adjustment game, not a perfection game. Life asks, what can you do when your hands are tied behind your back? What can you do when you're tired? What can you do when you've just endured loss? When your pride hurts, your plans fail? And trust me, that's when you see all those off-ramps. That's when something in the back of your mind says, hey, all this goes away if you just throw in the towel. Just go seek perfection somewhere else. You'll find it there. But you can chase that rabbit down a million paths. There is no perfection waiting for you, and there is no flawless pursuit. Life comes down to what will you do now? Where you are, with what you have, can you find a way to win when it hurts? Look, we all need to understand that life is innately difficult. And success calls for a simplification that is adapting and stepping forward. That's all. Things are hard, you step. Things don't go as you planned, you adapt and you step. But you are always moving towards that North Star. Whatever it is for you. It's deeming those parking spaces insignificant with regard to your life and your journey. Quitting is not brought about by the external world. No, failure is a decision. Failure is saying, you know what, this costs more effort than I'm willing to pay. Those parking spaces have become more tempting than the top of this mountain. Failure is a choice. And so, for one to succeed, they must simply stay in motion. Choose adaptation over a self-imposed end. Yeah, enjoy those moments of perfection, the times the stars do align. But see them as the exception, not the rule. We are not defined when things are great. We are defined by our ability to pick up the pieces and keep moving forward when they're not. Our lives are shaped by the exits we don't take, the parking spaces we don't even notice as we ascend the mountain that is life. Because anything other than the road ahead was never an option. You didn't succeed because things were perfect. You succeeded because you found a way to win when they weren't. The hard thing brought me through hell, but also to that which exists on the other side.
All right,
the hard
chat.
thing prompted me to question and doubt, but also provided the pieces I
400.
used to build my confidence.
Only
little
600 more to go.
It made me ask the tough
Lock it in.
questions. The ones maybe I didn't want to hear the answer to.
Chipper is right here to support
But also gave me the power to transform those answers I didn't like. The hard thing meant forfeiting being the expert in my world in exchange for the role of student in a foreign arena. Gave me new ladders to climb, new possibilities to reach for. It showed that true growth requires a willingness to be the beginner. It took some people out of my arms, my circle, my work, and in some cases my life altogether, that always seemed to open the door to those souls better aligned, those conducive to the journey and the process. Let's remember what the hard thing is. Beyond the pain, because we all know it does bring that. Beyond the challenges, because there are certainly many. Beyond all that exists the hope and the change and the promise. Robert Frost says the best way out is always through. Through because it's the chaos, the haze, the darkness of night that shapes us. It's in being broken that we learn to rebuild our world with the pieces, and perhaps most importantly, we learn that such a rebuilding process is possible to begin with, that the now is not mandatory or permanent. The hard thing, as it turns out, is nothing more than a transaction. Turbulence for the view above the clouds, fear in the moment for confidence in the future. It's learning that although life sometimes appears to paint a picture of conformity and helplessness, there's always a path leading to the very place we need to go. It just asks we find the courage to walk it. Churchill has said the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. And this beautiful message rings true. Because from the difficulty is the advantage. And sure, our first instinct is to see the problem. Our eyes tend to initially fixate on that which is unfortunate. But beyond that is where we get the most incredible things life provides, as if one is removing the shell or outer layer in order to get to the nutrients in the center, the ingredients required for growth, the pieces necessary to experience life at its fullest. And so we must be reminded that those opportunities, they're not rare, they're not reserved for everyone but you. They just tend to disguise themselves as the things we're most inclined to disregard or walk by. But if one finds the courage to move into them, through them, if one can see the difficulty not as a deterrent but as a bargain, they'll be given everything on the other side. Reality is not changed with a magic wand or the granting of a wish. It's from staring down the hard thing and moving directly into it, one little step at a time. I was having dinner not too long ago with a friend of mine. I see him as somewhat of a mentor as well. He's a bit older, has a couple decades on me as an entrepreneur, and we were talking about personal development, different ways to invest in yourself, what has the most ROI, kind of throwing ideas back and forth. And I started talking about different coaches I've linked up with, some of my observations on that. And he jumped right into this story. He says, Eddie, way back in the day, I paid a huge amount of money to spend the weekend with someone that I admired as an entrepreneur, as a business mind, with the intent to learn about him, his systems, his approach to his business and life, the whole thing. It was basically an investment into my journey. And he went on to say, I arrived for the weekend. It didn't take me long to feel completely underwhelmed, completely let down. Everything about the guy and his organization was sloppy, nothing seemed to be methodical, very little was extraordinary or groundbreaking. He said, I couldn't believe it, especially after tens of thousands of dollars spent, right? He spent a lot of money.
That's 500.
Couldn't believe that someone, he looked up to it so little to offer. And I'm sitting there just kind of like wide-eyed, like, oh man. And almost instinctively, I said, man, you must have been so angry. And he goes in this cheerful voice, no, I wasn't angry at all. This is a direct quote. He says, it was the best money I've ever spent in my life. I said, oh yeah, how? He says, it was that day I learned that, hey, if this clown can do it, if this guy can pull it off, what in the world is stopping me? What's my excuse? Basically said that day has been directly correlated to the success he's had since. Wow. Right? To which I responded, hey, thank you for the theme to what will become this Monday's YouTube video, right? Because the world needs to hear this message. So many of us need this. There's a tendency to put
go to the
other
bathroom
people,
real quick,
people
child,
we
be
don't
right back.
know, people we know nothing about, right, on a pedestal and see ourselves as perpetual outsiders looking in. This notion that they have what I don't. When so often that thing they have is simply, even solely, self-belief. I know so many competent people that second guess themselves out of starting or growth or progress. They see their inadequacies as substantially greater than their strengths. They don't go because they contemplate. They don't speak because they internalize. They don't create because they worry. And it's like, if you don't, someone else will. And that someone else could very easily be less suited for the job. But they did the thing that you wouldn't. The thing, as it turns out, that matters most. They trusted themselves to give it a shot. They understood that nothing starts until one looks in the mirror and believes in the pair of eyes staring back. And I look back, it just all makes perfect sense. I think of the frustration in my parents' faces when I was a kid and would say, I can't do that. Right? It was the frustration of people who care deeply about me watching me get in my own way. Right? Yes, you can, Eddie. You are the one stopping you. My grandfather
Right now,
saying
Chad, here we
everyone
go.
puts their pants on one leg at a time. No one is that.
Another set of 100.
And I think it's a critical reminder. It's not to say that success isn't warranted, that people who've done great things aren't qualified or talented or haven't earned it. No, not at all. The opposite, in fact. Time plus effort plus consistency tends to land people in pretty remarkable places. But it's like, no one takes that path or starts that journey unless they see themselves as worthy of it, until they give themselves permission. It makes you wonder how many people are simply too intimidated to lace up their shoes and walk out the front door. Don't even give it the thought. Hey, that's someone else's reality. I'm confined to this space right here. Think back to the early days of any incredible transformation. Right, I'm going to use a pretty cliche example, but I think it will do a great job of demonstrating my point. Think back to Michael Jordan playing JV basketball in high school his sophomore year because he didn't make the varsity team, okay? And at that point, if he was looking for evidence as to why he wasn't quite good enough, there it was. He could have easily found it. Not skilled enough, not quick enough, lacks vision. Certainly, as his coach pointed out, not tall enough, right? What in the world gave him the right, despite his circumstances, to think he was good enough to ultimately play at a high level? Who gave him permission to be that guy? He did. And it's just that. We don't see or think about any of that now. We see the NBA legend, the greatest ever, forgetting that at one point, he wasn't. And his life continuously consisted of crossroads where he had to bet on himself. Times where instead of accepting outcomes that weren't ideal, he sacrificed. He said, I do not accept that. He put in hours, which is a concept that we take for granted, right? People don't sacrifice unless they believe something will come from the blood, sweat, and tears. He believed that it would. You have to believe that it will as well. In fact, your life, if you started right now, made a little dot or mark on the present moment, and you could live two simultaneous existences at once. One track where you saw yourself as something extraordinary and sought to live that out, and the other track where the same you saw greatness as some intimidating, larger-than-life reality reserved for other people, the few. Right? You viewed yourself as an outsider, average, incapable, undeserving. The difference between where those tracks would end up would be worlds apart. Again, because humans follow through on who they believe themselves to be. We don't do things unless we believe they're possible. We don't sacrifice unless there's some sort of delayed gratification. We don't climb unless there exists a summit. What makes life both beautiful and mysterious is that we have to arrive at those outcomes before they exist. As Babe Ruth famously said in that article in the 1940s, it's hard to beat a person who never gives up. And it's hard to beat them because they believe themselves worthy of what they are chasing. So when will you? When will you find yourself worthy of that next level? When will you find yourself worthy of the financial success, the physique, the significant other, growth in your business? When will you let yourself be more or different or happy or whatever it is that seems just outside the scope of your reality? This world is built by people who understood what they wanted and granted themselves the freedom to pursue it. No superhuman strength required to place greater value on yourself. No record-breaking IQ necessary to live life on your terms, just a choice. Truly, a decision. And sure, it will be strange and awkward at first. You'll feel like an imposter in your own body at times. After all, getting what you've never had means doing what you've never done, but this is par for the course. This is life. And life cannot give you what you don't ask for. You can't arrive at a destination you're not traveling to. You can't be who you don't believe you're capable of becoming. So know that that aforementioned reflection in the mirror has a depth to it that must be explored. And that what separates immobility from infinity
That was probably
is the
one of
understanding that, hey, if it's possible,
I know
then
I
it
did
is
at least
most
100.
definitely possible
We have
for me.
400 more to go. 4 sets of 100 left. I'm gonna make sure to actually count in the beginning this time. I like zoned out in the beginning, so after a while I remembered, and then I just started counting from like 15.
There's an old
20,
idea
just to be
that once you
certain I did at
started,
least 100.
you're halfway there.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
Here we go.
You might wonder. Once you
I need to
started,
make sure I take enough
you've
rest in
only just
between.
begun.
I don't want to rush the rest
And
period
that's
with this.
true.
My arms are hurting too, they're fatigued.
But here's the thing. The journey, the ins and outs, ups and downs, trials and tribulations, they can all be dealt with. They knock us down from time to time, no doubt. But we learn, we adjust, and carry on as we move forward. Most success stories, they're crushed, not because of that adversity along the way.
Feeling
but because
fucking
they
shredded
never
though, guys.
begin. They never take shape or materialize. We can't make them real in our heads. We can't convince ourselves that they'll ever be anything other than fiction. We think that's for someone else. We look around and assume that reality is different than my reality. And overcoming this mental constraint
Oh my god, chat.
is always the most challenging step.
I love him.
And that saying, the one
Isn't
I
he the
continuously
best?
find myself coming back to, human beings always follow through on who they believe themselves to be, continues to be true. If you
Next
don't
100.
believe you're worthy of something, its pursuit is lost before it began. So while the mind tries to paint pictures of how scary that road is ahead, how it's too different or big or complex, understand that should you move forward, you'll find all that complexity can be broken down one day, one situation, one little step at a time. The only real demon here is the possibility of inaction because you couldn't make yourself believe it. You couldn't see yourself at the top of that mountain. And so, the front door was never opened. Emerson says, hitch your wagon to a star. A beautiful reminder that that star is proof your dreams are real. And only as real as the conviction with which you move towards them. Green light your own glory, your own contentment. Because contrary to what we might think, no one comes up and bestows that upon us. To live life fully is a decision. Decision, Latin root words, cut off. It's removing and abandoning your restraint in order to be more authentically you. In order that you'll give yourself permission to chase down that which makes you feel alive and soak up all that aligns with your heart and soul. Once you start, you're halfway there. And oh, that first step. often perceived as the beginning, but in actuality a point few ever give themselves the luxury of experiencing. Step 1, believe it's possible. Step 2, believe you're worthy. Step 3, go. Everything else works itself out. You're capable of dancing through life's chaos, of managing the world's unknowns. So know that, understand that, but most importantly, be one of the few who gives themselves permission to experience that. And it starts now. The quote attributed to Lincoln, he says, "Be sure to put your feet in the right place, then stand firm." The other day I was listening to Dan Carlin's podcast called Hardcore History, which, side note, is an incredible podcast. The guy's a brilliant storyteller, and as I was listening, there's a specific idea that I wanted to dive into, an idea that I believe if we make an effort to understand and fully commit to, is capable of changing our lives. But first, some quick context, right? So Dan starts off this episode called King of Kings, talking about the Battle of Thermopylae in the year 480 BC in ancient Greece. It's that famous story that a lot of us know where King Leonidas leads that small army which includes 300 Spartans against this massive Persian military force that's invading. And the quick version is essentially Xerxes, who's the king of the Persian Empire and in charge of that massive army, tells the much smaller Spartan force that if they lay down their weapons, if they submit to him and let the Persians pass, no harm will be inflicted upon them. They'll be free to go about their lives. And here's the famous line. In response to the Persian command to lay down their weapons, the Spartans respond, Milan Labe, which means, come and take them. It's the Spartans' way of saying, look, the only way we're laying these weapons down is if you rip them from our cold, dead hands. Right? With everything on the line, the odds stacked against them, the ground beneath them basically shaking from the march of a far superior fighting force moving directly towards their location, they would not let go of their principles. They were fighting for something bigger than them. And I couldn't stop thinking about this idea long after I hit pause on the episode. I guess I was awestruck by the power of living life with that type of conviction. Because I know in my soul that's the North Star I should be gravitating towards. We all should. The strength to be unrelenting with regard to that which we care about. The aforementioned quote from Lincoln about finding the right place for our feet and then holding steady. With everything you have, all that you are, holding firm. I just couldn't get that out of my head. And then it came to me that invading force represents so much in our personal lives. So many things. One example being the difficult or adverse circumstances, our trying times. When you're most likely to concede that perhaps you're no bigger than that
Just
world
this, bro. We're
around.
good.
Maybe life is a
Stacy.
movie and
It's just this.
I'm merely the audience. My job is to clap, laugh,
Must
gasp,
have
or
not,
cry. I'm a cog in a
Let the
wheel,
bowl
a line in a
fully
script.
distinguish.
Powerless. In which case, you should be reminded of Viktor Frankl's famous observation that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. In other words, the outside world may change. It may evolve, but it will never have power over how you choose to internalize and view what's happening. That's innately yours. So when the circumstances feel like they demand more than you can give, when they suggest you leave your interpretation of life behind, the correct response is, as the Spartans defiantly said, come and take it. That army could represent a pushback.
Here we go.
Against your values,
Oh,
the
I didn't
pillars
write the
of your
extra 100,
individual
did I?
foundation that you feel, amidst all the pressure, tempted to let go of. After all, it's easier to retreat than stand toe-to-toe with others. It's easier to
300
abandon
more.
than it is to defend,
Last 3 sets.
at least in the short term.
It
But
was
as
hard
Victor
to get
Hugo,
up that time.
you have enemies. Good.
Oh.
That means you've stood up for something sometime in your life. The enemies, obviously not being the point. I'm a believer in the conservation of enemy approach to life. Allies just pragmatically get you a lot further, but here's the reality. Anyone who stands for something will undoubtedly create divide. They'll be criticized and condemned. And when one feels the pressure of that criticism, they must understand that it does not invalidate who they are or their worldview. That is yours. You are the only one who can give up or relinquish that control. So as the Spartans said, come and take it. And then lastly, my thoughts went to little things that make us who we are. Those tiny pieces of ourselves that we, little by little, one by one, over time give away. The concessions that fade into the background as we evolve to fit in so that we don't stand out. As Emerson beautifully put it, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And so that attacking army just might be the universe attempting to mold you to it, perhaps not all at once, but more like that frog placed in water and put on the stove, with the heat increasing so slowly over time that he doesn't realize the heat will soon overtake him. Externalities do not dictate. They are objects in need of meaning, and you are the architect here. If it means something to you, it's worth holding on to during the difficult times and the easy times. When it's popular and when it's not, there is value within you specific to you, a value that must be nurtured in order to expand. Others can't and won't see that. The world around you may, even with all its complexities, seek to suppress it. But that flame is there. It's there and it's yours. And to anyone or anything looking to extinguish its light, come and take it. After all, what is a life if not one lived on your own terms? The goal is not to simply exist, but to define the plane on which you'll evolve. To devise your own parameters. Be yourself.
Hey, I'm from New York, brother.
To make you something else. So here's to digging deep, to finding within yourself the courage to stand up to the great armies of chaos, conflict, adversity, and their perpetual conquest. To remember how strong you are, how much control you have as you navigate the unknowns and redefine the right nows. Don't let your strength be the thing you give away. Don't let your heart be what gets left behind. Don't let your thoughts become illusions of what could have been if only you'd held on. And look, I'm not saying it's easy. In fact, I know that the meaningful road will necessarily be the one that requires the most of us. That makes us question who we are and where we're going. It will ask that when our minds race with doubt and our knees shake with fear, we find a way to stand regardless. To walk to our demons, look them square in the eye and proclaim that whatever it takes, we are willing to give. That we will fight until there's nothing left, go until we can go no further, and hold with conviction all that matters most. So the next time life demands that you fall back or bow down, the next time chaos emerges in the distance and asks only that you lay down your arms, here's to being strong enough, certain enough, courageous enough to say one thing and one thing only: come and take them. There are a handful of recorded lectures online by Jim Rohn, who has definitely become one of my favorite thinkers over the years. And I found this little nugget the other day that I wanted to share. He says, there are 4 emotions that will change your life: disgust, decision, desire, and resolve. And I want to talk about the first one because I found the story to be incredibly powerful and also relatable, right, in various aspects of life over the years. So he frames it by talking about a Girl Scout walking up to his front door to try and sell him some Girl Scout cookies when he's 25 years old. And he's broke, doesn't have any money at the time, and tells her what I assume to be a white lie as to why he can't buy the cookies at that particular time. Right, so he tells her that he can't, she walks away. He says after he closes the door and goes back inside, he felt something that completely changed his life. Disgust. An overwhelming feeling that he simply didn't want to live like that anymore. He didn't want to lie. He didn't want to be broke. And I'm quoting him, he says, the day you can say I've had it may not be the day it ends, but the day it begins. And that feeling, which of course on the surface seems like a terrible thing, right? No one wants to feel disgust with their circumstance. But it's ultimately one of the most powerful indicators life can present to us. There has always been, and I assume will continue to be, that point in many different facets of my life where I say enough is enough. I just never thought to categorize it and label it like he did, but that's what it is. You know, getting to a point where you look around and realize you've conceded too much. You've strayed too far beyond what matters to you. You've left too much on the table. That feeling, again, while uncomfortable, is often what becomes the first step towards that which is truly meaningful, a better version of yourself. A realization, by the way, that's not some denunciation of who you are, right? It's not saying, I'm not good enough, or I'm inadequate. I would describe it as the exact opposite. It's thinking enough of yourself to acknowledge that you're better than this. It's saying, yeah, there's a reality where I stay the same, where I don't change, where I allow this to just be my life. But that's not the reality I'm going to choose. Because I respect myself too much to continue living with that dissonance between my actions and who I know I truly am. And I think at a deep level, we all understand this. So many times in life, funny enough, we don't change until we have to. Until our backs are completely against the wall. It took me years in my previous professional life to say enough is enough. But ultimately got to that point. I've been there in relationships, been there with my creative work, been there with my finances. And what's especially interesting is that as you grow, evolve, and your goals change, what you expect of yourself changes, grows along with you, you'll find yourself at that place again, and again, and again, and that's good. Listen to it.
Wow.
Right? That's your intuition telling you you're ready for more, that something else awaits, that the status quo is no longer sufficient. And there lies the opportunity. To recognize and associate that feeling of disgust, as Rome calls it, with the need to change or an opportunity to change before things blow up or become more difficult than they need to be. Everything in your life has been allowed by you to some extent. Now that's an important thing to understand. If there's someone in your life that's making it hell, you, to an extent, are responsible for that, right? No one gets your time without your permission. If you're doing things that don't move, motivate, or inspire you, well, the reality is you're choosing those actions. Now, the circumstances may be specific to you, they may be difficult, and I understand that, but are you asking yourself how you can begin moving away from it? How you can put walls between yourself and the things that drag you down? Because the bottom line is, it's very easy to become accustomed to things that are a drain on
That's
our
800,
lives.
chat.
The old
We have
frog in the
200
boiling
more
water,
left.
right? You throw a frog in a pot of hot water, it'll jump right out.
Holy.
But you put it in a pot of cool water,
Look at this
and you
pump.
slowly but incrementally increase the temperature until it's boiling.
Look at this
The
fucking
frog
pump.
won't realize it's burning alive. I think in the same way we learn to
Holy
live with that
shit.
situational disgust. The things we're unhappy with just become the baseline or normal. It becomes regular. And what I love about this Girl Scout cookie story is that light bulb moment where it's like, no, I don't have to accept this. I can take back control. I dictate how I'm going to live. And I know this isn't it. Now, you don't need to have all the answers right away. In fact, you most certainly won't have them. But every journey, as the saying goes, begins with the first step. That's precisely why the moment is so powerful. You don't start moving to that new place until you realize that you want to start moving away from where you are. Rome talks about disgust being a powerful motivator. That's why. It's the initial leverage you need to create that momentum. To see the gap between where you want to be and where you are. And this is ultimately a call to that realization. Do an audit on yourself and your contentment, the places you find lacking. They're calling for your attention. And it's normal, it's okay, it's part of life, but it's also your opportunity to begin making that change. I like very simple, very straightforward notes to help me parse through this. Simple list, 2 columns. On the left, everything that brings me some level of anxiety or that is a drain on my peace. And on the column on the right, directly across from it, simply what I plan to do about each item. Nothing major, but a tangible, manageable step. Because as Jim Rohn says, you begin to utilize that feeling of disgust or discontent to act. You turn that message into something beautiful, an adventure, some variation of growth. That's where the good stuff is. By the way, it also changes our relationship with those emotions when they emerge. It's no longer, poor me, I'm stuck, my life is hard, and the list goes on and on. No, it's, oh, this doesn't feel good. How can I use it to connect me to something that does? Let's listen to that. I don't like the feeling of making excuses as to why I can't buy the cookies. I don't like the feeling of not having the financial resources. Obviously, can't fix it overnight, but let's make a plan. Let's allow the wheels to hit the road, right? Which, hey, who knows, might be more than I've ever done. This is the magic beginning he alludes to. The confidence being earned, the purpose, the meaning, and ultimately, being that we only get results where we place our attention, the outcome we've been looking for. So
I'm
when
gonna
you
grab
find
one
yourself
of
in
the
that point,
wireless mics now that they've been
when you
charging,
experience
so
a
you guys can hear me
repetition of
breathing,
disappointment or
and I can talk to
frustration
you
with
if
your
I
circumstance,
decide to, I guess, while I'm still
let
rubbing
that
out
be
these
the
last
gift
200
it's
reps.
trying to be. Let it be the reason you will soon wake up a different person, moving towards that which aligns with who you are. Every step you take is an investment. Every decision to do the difficult thing is a gift to your future self. Think about this for a second. One of the many things that makes being humans so incredible is our ability to engage in delayed gratification. To do things now that will elevate us at a future time. And at a fundamental level, we understand that. We've heard the famous marshmallow study where kids were left alone in a room with the marshmallow placed in front of them, and the ones who showed restraint and could resist eating it ended up, in many regards, being more successful as adults. We've all heard the mantras, working hard pays off.
Check.
That's valuable.
All right. I think
But
I
I'd
have
like to take it
successfully switched the
further.
microphones.
Because when you say yes in the face of adversity, when you move forward when tired,
We'll see.
seek out a
Hello.
way
Yep.
amidst the chaos of life, you are contributing to a foundation so powerful that it will elevate you in ways outside your current level of awareness. By simply saying yes when I was unsure and often fearful, by continuing to write and speak, I was unknowingly building these opportunities that would manifest years later, right? Many of which were not planned, they were not methodical. My dedication and my North Star never changed. I held on tightly to those, but the surrounding components were always moving and transforming. People are in my life today because of steps I took 5 years ago. I know things about myself and my hopes and my dreams because of risks I took when I was, let's face it, too ignorant to understand the repercussions. But I knew it felt right. See, here's what I did understand. If I, as Emerson put it, hitched my wagon to a star and moved towards it, when I felt great and when I didn't, when I was confident and when I wasn't, when I was winning and when I was not, I knew the other stuff would take care of itself. I trusted the process. And here's why that matters. Here's why I'm taking you all on a little trip down memory lane. Because writing, speaking, inspiring, storytelling, they are my world within. What is yours? What is it that moves you, that lights up your soul? I want you to know that. I want you to know that because its pursuit requires not only a delayed gratification, but an acceptance that your dedication will evolve in ways so incredible that you can't even imagine. That all those little decisions become emergent and together represent something more powerful than the sum of its parts. I love the example or idea of the human brain, right? So complex and powerful that it appears almost divine. It's essentially a universe behind our eyes. Even our understanding, our comprehension is minimal. We are awed by its capability. Yet it's not about one single piece of the brain, the tissues or the neurons individually. It's the network all these microscopic occurrences create together. Something bigger than everything combined creating a consciousness we can't even find or point to when looking at the evidence. But we know it exists, and we know it's somehow derived from this ball of nervous tissue. This is not unlike one's pursuit of excellence. The level of achievement or consciousness we are searching for, it can't be singularly identified. It's emergent. It materializes after the discipline, after the consistent work, after the self-belief, after the will to do what is required, whether we wanted to in the moment or we didn't. Then we get our quote-unquote consciousness. You can't and won't always see the value in your dedication, in your sacrifice. And let me level with you, I get how crazy it feels to think, yeah, but someday it will mean something. Someday that work will put people in my life that will change my world, elevate my existence. It will create opportunities that expedite my evolution, lessons and occurrences that will amplify my wisdom and worldview. But that's the name of the game. If you know in your heart you are pointed to the right star, then it's just about stepping, adjusting, and repeating. Move, adjust, move, adjust, move, adjust. There will be a time when you look over your shoulder and are stunned by what you've created, by the distance you've traveled. Look, you can't see the future. You can't know what everything will mean and what will occur, but you can continue forward into the darkness so that when the long-awaited light inevitably presents itself, you are in position to receive it, to stand on the foundation you have been building all along. Don't think so much. You might overlook the obvious. You might see past all that you've achieved. Don't move so quickly. You might overstep the moment. You might miss all the beauty you're creating. One can wake up, get dressed, walk out the door thinking that they're on their way to a someday achievable, brilliant finale, and simultaneously fail to understand the miracle of the now. It's in what you're doing now, who you're helping now, what you're becoming now. Your miracle is now. And you can't see your impact because it materializes behind you as your back is to it and you step toward those distant horizons. There's a direct link between always wanting to be better and never feeling like you're good enough. If you don't properly compartmentalize the two, you'll always be chasing something you can't obtain while you walk right by the brilliance you're piecing together in real time. That carrot just outside of reach for the runner on the treadmill. And I'm not saying your goals and aspirations aren't incredible.
6, 7, 8, 9. Last set.
I'm not saying you aren't one in a million. I'm not saying you won't shock, change, add unparalleled value to the world. No, that's most certainly possible. But I'm saying you're doing that now, too. Like, right now. You're not on a trajectory to someday be one in a million. You are one in a million on a trajectory to live life fully, to further expand, explore, as you should. But let's not lose perspective along the way. It's hard to watch someone who has changed your life feel like they're not good enough. It just is. It's hard to watch something so beautiful feel like they must first evolve before they're worthy. And it's like, sure, I get it. We celebrate visible, tangible successes, the innovators and CEOs, world-class talents. People who have built the present and will build the future, but notice there are no ceremonies for the ones who lift others up every day, who lead by example, who show up again and again when they're going through their own private hell. There are no record books for them. But I'll tell you what, if there were, you'd be there, and if I could remind you of that every day, I would. The small things you do not feel so small to those around you. In fact, your mere existence changed my life, and I know I'm not alone, not even close to alone. It's a tough world we live in. Tough enough to bring even the strongest amongst us to our knees. Yet you think you're flawed and insufficient. I ask, compared to what? A lot of people would have folded a long time ago. Wouldn't be fighting for a dream or standing for anything. A lot of people wouldn't be giving so much of themselves. Again, I continuously run into this question. Why is it that the ones who are changing the world, not with their social media follower count, but with their actions, so often fail to see their own value? Perhaps they're using the wrong measuring sticks. Maybe their sights are set so high they don't realize all that they're making better along the way. Maybe they don't know that every soul they light up puts in motion a ripple effect, an exponential value add. But if you just lift your head up and look around, you would see quite the ripple effect. You would see quite the chain reaction. You would see that you are not just working towards change, you are actively embodying it. Don't be the only one who can't see that. Why do I say this? Why spend the time? Well, because one, I think it's not something we say enough. The ones who truly change us or make our lives better need to be told that. There's just something tragic about keeping it to ourselves. And two, because you don't give yourself enough credit. You're blind to the path you've traveled and the dragons you've slayed. I couldn't believe my ears when you apologized for being weak.
I feel like he's talking to me.
Weak is retreating. Weak is being selfish. Weak is forfeiting your gifts. Those descriptors are antithetical to who you are. And sure, we all slip into them once in a while. We're human beings. We all endure our valleys of despair. But to fight with everything you have on your way back up, that is not weakness. That's courage. I think our definitions might be crossed here. See, I'm a firm believer that absolutely we have to be our own greatest critics, no doubt. But the value in that, the expectation, is that it's coupled with a commitment to also be our own greatest ally. Are you? Are you your own greatest ally? Because sometimes I'm not so sure. Do you see how much light you bring to the world? How much better people around you are when you enter a room and smile, when you listen to them in their problem, when you inspire them by making decisions with so much at stake, when you don't let the hardship of your past keep you down. And I know how you this because maybe you don't know. Maybe you talk so much about what the future will be and how big and incredible things will become that you overlook the parallel worlds you are creating with each step along the way. A pilgrim, a wanderer in search of an impact you are already making. So look, keep your head up and your expectations high. You will do remarkable things. But don't be afraid to look over your shoulder and see that you already are. Don't beat yourself up for not yet arriving at an imaginary place while you change the world along the way. Give yourself the same grace and compassion you would give to me. Allow that for yourself. Don't think so much that you overlook the obvious. You just might see past all that you've achieved. And don't move so quickly that you overstep the moment. You might just miss all that beauty that you're creating. This isn't a pep talk. This is me holding up a mirror so that you can see the value add. You're not merely an IOU to some future self. You are all the people around you whose lives you make better every day. The lives you touch by being The other day, I went to check out an open mic, and basically people signed up to share their short stories, their poetry, stuff like that. And I'm sitting there, soaking it all in, enjoying each one as they went up on stage. And eventually this girl makes her way up. The first thing she does, she tells the room, hey, I've never done this before, I've always wanted to, so here I am. She takes out her phone, begins reading some of her poems. And pretty quickly, two things stuck out to me. One is she was brilliant. Just so incredibly talented that I'm thinking, man, if she keeps doing this, she's going to find herself in some crazy places. She's really going to make an impact. That was the first thing. And the second, as I sat there and watched, was that I noticed that her hands were visibly shaking. I was pretty close to the stage. And I could see this happening to the point where she had to place one on top of the other, right, to keep the hand that was holding her phone from bouncing around while she read. That's how visibly nervous she was. And immediately my mind went down this road, reflecting back on the moments I've had just like that, because man, I've been there. Where you're both determined and terrified at the same time, but somehow the desire to try outweighs the fear just enough for you to find yourself in that exact situation. Just enough that you step into a foreign world, still wondering whether you made the right move. You know, every step of the way, from the car, the building, onto this stage, until you hit the point where, well, now you can't turn back. Now you're here, you can't leave. And the thing is, and this is what was so beautiful to me, she was never forced to do this at gunpoint. No one made her step into that chaos. It was self-created. She could have stayed home. She could have closed her journal or the notes app on her phone, and that would have been the end of that. But no, not today. Today, one yes would lead to another, would lead to another, and despite the nerves, the sweaty palms, and shaky hands, she would open a new chapter in the story of her life. prove to herself that she's bolder than she thought she was just a few hours ago. That there's upside when you confront those unknowns in life. And as I sat and watched, I was so incredibly moved, so proud, so impressed. Partly because I know that to many of the people in that room, it might not have looked like much. You know, it's like, okay, great, round of applause for the new artist or poet. Welcome. But I knew the gravity of the moment. I understood how big it truly was. And regardless of what words came out of her mouth or how well they were assembled, that night was not about the performance. No, it was about new beginnings. It was about outstretched wings, opening one's eyes to the learned helplessness and pinpointing the opportunity that was simply waiting for that first step to occur. And see, that's what I want to emphasize. That's what I believe every single one of us needs to understand, to fully get. The biggest moves we make in life, well, it's easy to convince ourselves that they aren't necessary or worth it. The things that transform us hide themselves. A lot of the time, they don't feel urgent. They aren't life or death decisions. They can be the stages we never step on, the people we never talk to, the chances we never take. Because, well, what happens if we simply stay right where we are? Say thank you, but no thank you to those fleeting opportunities. Nothing. Nothing happens. More of the same, and realistically, nothing is far less scary than all that other stuff. We don't fear nothingness. We don't intrinsically fear more of the same. No, we fear stepping onto the stage. We fear vulnerability. We fear messing up, looking stupid, being judged. And yeah, when you do nothing, you get to skip all that. Avoid all that discomfort and that potential pain. But you also miss the feeling of victory. Of closing your eyes at night knowing how badly you wanted to just let that ship sail, how terrified you were about what could go wrong, but you did it anyway. You get to feel you have earned the rush of stepping into a chaotic world. And even if temporarily you tamed it, that's what life is about. Always remember that we have a natural proclivity to avoid pain, not to pursue the things that make us feel alive. Deep down in our DNA, there exist instructions to run away from the things that could hurt us, embarrass us. Our minds will race, our bodies will kick and scream, our hands will shake. That's just the way it goes. Until we prove to ourselves that it's all conquerable, that reality can be relearned. It's a layer of resistance that has to be faced and then dismantled. Why was I so moved that night? Because I got to watch in real time someone dismantling that fear on their way to something incredible. It's courage. Stepping into the arena, not for the people next to you or anyone else, but for you. Because you know there's more. You know that where you are pales in comparison to where you can be. I'm definitely one to look back from time to time and reflect, and I'll tell you what, I'm incredibly thankful for the hard times that shaped me, the challenges that were forced upon me and made me who I am. But beyond that, and perhaps even more so, the times I stepped out on my own accord, terrified and manufactured change, the times that the fear of staying the same eclipsed the fear
last 100
the
reps.
times I could have stayed home.
Oh,
Woken up the next
wow.
morning and lost nothing.
Tomorrow, I believe, is a rest day.
Saw what there was
Well,
to be
we'll
gained
just
and
do like
threw
cardio and
myself
stretching.
into that metaphorical fire so that confidence could be forged and new chapters could be written.
Holy fuck.
Let's all remember how out of focus the present moment looks. Remember how inclined we are to look at life through a lens of scarcity. We are trying to avoid, but if you can, even briefly find the strength to step back and ask, what is there to be gained? You see that not going is the real danger. And those stages that seem arbitrary, that seem like optional stops along the way, well, they're just as imperative as the air you breathe. They are not some things, they are everything. We all hit a point where we look back on the roads we traveled and see the culmination of footsteps that have come to constitute our lives. And we want that moment to feel full. Like no stone was left unturned, like we put it all on the line. So will you step onto the stage of life? Stand your ground as the curtain opens, read your poems to a foreign audience. Will you share your voice even though it trembles? Because if you do, you're giving yourself permission to truly live, to feel. Look, we're not here for a long time. This is a very short ride, so why not give as much of yourself to the world for as long as you possibly can? Why not step out knowing that the difference between nothing and everything is what you do with shaky hands? The miracle isn't that I finished. The miracle is that I had the courage to start. We all share a commonality. The runner on the starting block, the one at work, the one studying, the one trying to create the best life possible for their family. See, we are all at a beginning, looking up at an idea. Nothing given, nothing to adjust or react to, no, just an idea. And ideas, when we are at the bottom looking up, they're deceptive in nature. Their size, their weight, their breadth. They like to present themselves as much more than they actually are. And so, to turn ideas into things, one needs see himself. Not as some descendant of Mount Olympus tasked with lifting that 2,000-ton boulder before them, but as one armed with an understanding, the awareness that the 2,000-ton boulder before them can be broken down piece by piece, that it is nothing more than a facade, and while it may stop most in their tracks, you are simply not most. Not because the world treats you differently, but because you see the world differently. By knowing you are bigger than the sum of its parts, you have defanged this wolf. You have put yourself in position to do that which makes the world tremble. That which causes even the most confident to doubt. You have put yourself in position to begin. See, there is a time to look at the top of the mountain, breaking through the clouds, powerful and majestic. And then there is a time to look at your feet. And right now is the latter. You're not concerned with the big things. No, not right now. Your job is to move forward into this haze, to not see but adapt, to not know but trust. Things will materialize and you know that. But at the same time, you can't control the future. Your battle is right now, and it's with the space immediately in front of you. It's with the thoughts attempting to deceive you. It's with the things the outside world will tell you, but forward motion is the antidote to all of that. And so forward you must go. The beginning is always the hardest because our thoughts are a mightier foe than life's obstacles. Thoughts take on lives of their own. They become monsters, demons, dead ends, obstacles. On the other hand, just ask that we adjust. There is no obstacle that can't be addressed by stepping into it. And so while the temptation is to sit, thinking, speculating about how challenging the road ahead, this is where you think less and move more. Harness the world as it comes, because the truth is nothing is as big as it appears to be. Life is incredibly solvable. Every problem has a solution. Every bad chapter ends. Every setback is a chance to be more than you've ever been. But how would you know that? If you bowed down to the mountains in your head, how would you know that if you never began? So let today be the dotted line you sign with your future self. A promise to be aware that the mountaintop peers over you, but to not be distracted by its shadow. To take the climb one rock, one step, 1 second at a time. Let it be an acknowledgement that nothing life throws at you can't be broken down and conquered so long as you don't get in your own way. Gone are the days of being held captive behind steel bars of self-doubt and fear. That road ahead is not the problem. It never was. Refusing to give yourself permission to travel down it was the problem. So without constraints, meet life head on. Let the trials and tribulations emerge because they will, but know that you will rise to meet them. Let the unknown highlight all that you don't know, you can't see. Fine. The one thing you are sure of is that you will, one by one, transform the unseen into strength. And when those thoughts emerge, telling you that you've gone too far, that you're in over your head, that this isn't meant for you, know them not as truth, but as the only obstacle that can derail and distract. You don't have time for make-believe monsters. No, not today. So onward you go. To map the unknown, to tame the untamed, to live your life the way it was meant.
We fucking did it, chat.
To be lived.
In 2 hours. 200 pull-ups and 1,000 plus abdominal cable pull-downs with 100 pounds. Holy fucking shit. Whoa.
In John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he talks about momentum and how the saying, if you can't take the heat, then get out of the kitchen, doesn't quite get it right. Advocating that it should instead be, if you can't create the heat, then get out of the kitchen. And being that we are all leaders in our own lives, I think he hits on something that none of us should overlook. The power of momentum, of not waiting but creating.
Also some triceps.
Reminding ourselves that we are not spectators, sitting in the stands and simply reacting to or complaining about the events taking place below.
Oh, no, it's bad.
No, we have the ability to change the things we do not like and create the ones that don't yet exist when we know they should. Too much of the time we react to that metaphorical heat in the kitchen, as John alludes to, forgetting that we can dial it up or down. We're not only characters that have been created, we are ourselves create.
Man, that was fun.
And I talk a lot about mental shifts.
I really
Changed
enjoyed
my
that. I
life,
think
and
we're gonna count with
they're
these
fun.
now.
But
50
perhaps the most
pounds.
important was the realization that
Here's the
I
new
can do
goal. I'm
something
just gonna
about the
set
things
it
I
right
don't
now.
like.
Watch this.
And I
50
know that sounds
pounds.
simple, probably even obvious.
Tricep cable
But I look
extensions.
back at
I
various
have to
stages
get
of
the
my life,
wrist
and I'm
flared
blown
out.
away
So once I
by
am
the
struggling
things I
to
tolerated
flare the
for
wrist
years.
out, I'm gonna
Maybe
end the set
years, simply
and we'll
because I
write the
gave
new
it
number
no
down.
thought. There were
We're gonna
many
do-
questions that I never asked, so many opportunities I never explored.
Should I do
Until I
something
realized
crazy?
that
I don't want my
human
arms to fall off. I gotta be.
stuff,
I already
those
did
things
2
you
crazy
don't
things.
want.
200,
It's
1,000.
amazing the power.
How many
of a
tricep
simple
extensions?
List that was created. 2 columns.
Plan
Left
it out.
side,
Think.
all the things that bothered me. That I wasn't happy
Let's do
with,
400.
or that I knew should be there.
Oh
that
shit!
had
Why'd I
been
say that?
lacking. And then on the right column, what I'm going to do about it. Every single item.
Okay.
Each one. What's the step I'm going to take?
We'll see what happens.
And I just poured my heart onto that paper, and it's like you look down and feel like you have finally moved into the driver's seat. There's something incredible about knowing that you have taken control. Something satisfying, knowing that you're not just accepting what falls out of the sky and lands in your hand. Right? Especially since we seem to have this proclivity to box ourselves in. Human beings are amazing in their ability to adapt. But the danger is when we adapt to and normalize a reality that falls short of what matters to us. The danger is in forgetting that nothing happens without momentum, and momentum is self-made. One of my favorite stories is about a man walking through the circus. And he sees these enormous elephants, each with one end of a rope tied around one of their legs, and the other end of that rope connected to a chair. The man, as he's walking by, he's curious, asks one of the trainers, "Hey, isn't that dangerous? Couldn't the elephant easily break free and get away if he wanted?" And the trainer says, "No. See, we started doing this when they were baby elephants.
That's 40 to start.
They couldn't physically break free. They weren't strong enough. And so over the years, as they grew and
Tricep
became
pump.
bigger,
Coming in
stronger, it
hard.
never dawned on them that by simply pulling on that rope or walking away, they could break free. These chains might as well be invisible.
I'm gonna put a line.
And that's what they were. Mental. The rope wasn't keeping the elephants to the chair. The elephants were keeping the
all the way
elephants to
down
the chair.
there.
And there's something there in that message for all of us. For some of us, in this
40.
particular moment, maybe it's big picture. For others, maybe we're at a season of life where it's simply creating momentum in
gonna
some
hit
type of
ball.
smaller capacity. And I travel through these ups and downs personally all the time. I think that's a healthy thing. It's a sign that you're looking for that growth. You're checking the world around you for those imaginary ropes. Recently I went through a period where I just felt too long had gone by without something significant happening. I needed to create momentum. And so I asked, well, who was I reaching out to? How was I pushing myself? What was I doing that scared me? What was I doing that was growing? How can I take things up a level? All these little levers of opportunity are all around us, but we have to know to look for them, to see them and pull. And it's truly an incredible thing. You do that, and you start to feel the movement underneath you, the momentum, the excitement, because you're trying new things, you're taking new risks, talking to new people. And that's how that snowball grows. We have to realize that we are mighty big elephants, perpetually tied to these comically small chairs. We have to create that heat in the kitchen because we're not only capable, we are ready. We are equipped to move forward. See, the moment is never going to be perfect. The momentum will never come to be on its own. Those things wait. They wait for you to stop watching life go by and click start on the stopwatch. Yeah, time has always ticked away, but it will never mean as much as it's about to now. Tick tock whispers the opportunity, signifying that in order to evolve, we must decide we are bold enough to go where we have not yet gone, and strong enough to leave some things behind, to choose to accept some discomfort in its impermanence instead of a regret that is forever. And that's a trade that demands we look into the future and find value in the unseen. It's a move that says the seconds ticking by mean too much to dishonor them by not making the most of what's around you. And those answers are always there. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? We make decisions without even realizing we're making them. To accept the current moment as fate is to choose what you're given over what is possible, over everything that's out there, available for you. It's never too late to pull on that rope around your foot, to be who you, as the saying goes, might have been.
What the fuck? Oh.
Know that in your world, nothing consistently shows up or exists without your stamp of approval. That will always be true. Nothing carries on without you allowing it to do so. And that understanding will be the difference.
That's 80.
Between the ground level and the exponential heights you are capable of reaching. The creation, the email, the phone call, the ride, the book, the period of time, the step out the door, any and all of life's seemingly unremarkable characteristics. Within them is your ticket to greatness. Just know that you have to be the one that winds the clock. You are the sun around which everything else revolves, the architect that makes something of value from that.
Yes.
There will always be momentum where you decide there should be momentum. So pick your head up, open the door, and step out into the world of potential that awaits. If someone were to tell you life is easy, they'd be incorrect. If they were to tell you there's a specified path to contentment, they'd be misinformed. If they were to tell you there's a book of answers to every question you'll come across, they'd be misled. The point is not that life is easy. Defined.
Fuck.
The point is that despite the fact that it's none of those things, you're capable of making something from it. That from a seemingly endless barrage of unknowns exist the pieces to build something truly extraordinary. I came across a quote a few years ago from Abraham Maslow, and a concept that was in Ernest Becker's book, The Denial of Death. And the idea is we are simultaneously gods and worms. And every once in a while you come across an idea that changes the way you see things. That's definitely one of them, right? A duality that is perpetually under tension. Gods and worms. We're animals. We're flesh and bone, eroding by the day. and were given a temporary stay on a giant rock rotating around the sun, while simultaneously equipped with the power to not only be aware of that finitude, but to transcend it, to dream, to see things that are not yet there. Our minds are miraculous. We are both gods and worms. So what do we do about this? How about use the fact that we're going to die, the fact that in many ways we don't have control, the fact that life is messy and unpredictable and often a maze of complete chaos, to, rather than shrink because of it, take off the guardrails and reach for the heavens. To put things into existence that do not yet exist. Why not go all in? After all, the thing about living, as the saying goes, is that no one makes it out alive. No one hops on the roller coaster to constantly look at their watch, to dwell on its temporary nature. No, it's to enjoy the ride. And what is our time here but a few short rides around the sun? So when it feels like life is too big, when the day overwhelms or disintegrates into chaos, don't fixate on the rocky nature of the world around you, but on your ability to take it all and make it mean something. Cherish the idea that although everything around you is dictated by natural laws and constraints, your mind is bound by nothing. And where you seek answers, you will find them. Where you pursue more, you will unlock it. Our finitude, our challenges are essential to our existence. They remind us that we have nothing to lose, that the song will end, so why not dance like it's your last time? Because sure, in time we will be.
That's 140 so far. I'm probably gonna do like 444.
That's exactly why
I said 400, but now I want to do 444 for some reason.
We'll live to, in our own unique
Probably
way,
because my triceps look
bridge the
fucking
gap
massive right now, and I'm
between the
thoroughly
ground we
enjoying
walk
these
on
reps.
and the heavens above. Looking back and understanding what you might have done differently is a source of strength. Awareness is a currency of sorts.
Alright, here we go, bros.
But being sorry for yesterday,
Come on.
dwelling on the days gone by, that is a waste of time. See, those feelings of discontent, the emotions that rise to the surface as our minds sort through that catalog of regret. You know, the emotions that try and pull you back down into the very moment in which they occurred. If you let them lead you by the hand back into a manufactured hell, they will. And down you will go, reliving an expired pain that you can neither prevent nor do anything about. After all, it is the past. But alternatively, if we can do one of the hardest things for humans to do, which is depersonalize the occurrence, remove the emotion, and find the value, you stand face to face with an advantage in life that is exponential.
Oh!
Not only are you refusing to be defined or tortured by yesterday, but you're creating a framework by which you can actually use that pain to make a better right now. You're acknowledging that your mistakes are not indicative of a current reflection in the mirror. They're not metal bars keeping you closed in. They're opportunities in disguise. A friend of mine once told me, from our pain comes our
look at my arm right now. I'm not
From
even
our
flexing.
despair comes our hope. It's from the times we got it so completely wrong that we can now arm ourselves.
I'm just gonna stop counting because there's a lot more to go, and it is starting to hurt.
And faster and
So,
stronger and wiser.
We're not gonna count. We're just gonna kind of lock the fuck in.
The reality, or life in the big city, as the saying goes, is having to fall in order to rise again. Because if nothing falls, there are no ashes from which to rebuild. We change when we've lost. We evolve when we're
crazy right now.
We become more when life shakes our worldview. There's power in this suffering. That is, if you choose to find it. And that's always a decision that's ours to make. Again, those same memories that can pull you down if you let them can also be used to elevate yourself higher than you've ever been. There's a saying that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do about it.
Hello again.
And when you think about it,
I'm liking these sets of 30.
because knowledge is only
I don't know if they're gonna be able to hold
There's a
out that
willingness
long.
to
Might
put
have to
that
drop to
knowledge
20
to
reps
work.
at a time eventually. We'll see.
Yesterday's pain, its lessons, can be the very reason.
I've been doing 20 usually, then taking not a break, but holding the tension here without resting the weight, and then busting out like 5 or 10. All right, shut up and rep. Up.
Otherwise, they'll remain that ball and chain around your ankle. Is the mistake that cost you your business, maybe the inaction that fractured a relationship, a swing and miss that hurt your pride somewhere along the way? Are they going to remain sources of pain in your mind, mental images or reflections of where you fell short? Or are they going to fuel the comeback, the sequel? When we fall, we're given one of life's greatest gifts, a part 2. Armed with the knowledge we otherwise would never have had. Armed with an understanding that with the failures comes the strength. I've grown, placed more and more emphasis on thinking. How do I perceive life? Because when that slips, it's never too far behind.
2 more.
But when you capture and maintain a healthy perspective, things seem to improve along with it. Not because
God up.
But because how we think prompts how we act, and how we act changes our lives. It's that simple. So the question, okay, that happened. Now what does it mean to you will always be crucial. What are you going to do about it now will always be imperative.
That's
And
200.
if you look, you'll find that opportunity everywhere. I was thinking recently about all the books I've read, all the podcasts I consume, and there are a ton, right? But how valuable is that information if I don't act? How much could any of it mean if it's consumed and then forgotten? A memory with an image and a title. I'd be better off reading one good book a year, listening to one podcast, and injecting that wisdom into my life immediately, acting on it, using it to manufacture momentum. Right? If the acting is more important than the knowing, why have I not placed greater emphasis on the action? Like 90% more emphasis. And I think that's a question we should all be asking. And so let's move from the book example back to the thinking, reminiscing about our mistakes, the times we let ourselves down. What are our memories, if not just little novels where we, as the main characters, embark upon the hero's journey.
I'm gonna grab a...
Warriors called to something greater, leaving a previous world, facing our demons, learning about ourselves along the way. Perhaps cut short. Left without a conclusion, only in need of an ending. And these painful experiences are essentially us walking around with novels unfinished in our heads. We've done the work, we've learned the lessons, endured the pain. And rather than continuing to revisit that discomfort of the moment, that stopping point, rather than dwelling on how we shut the book after the conflict occurred, let's open it back up and integrate that value, that lesson into the present. Let's grow from it. Let's evolve because of it. That's what's so beautiful, so exciting about the future. It hasn't happened yet. It's in your control.
Oh, fuck yes!
You're painting that picture now in real time, and so how convenient that you fell yesterday. Now you have an opportunity to be stronger today. And how incredible that you learned what action or inaction was not in line with the person you want to be. Now you have an opportunity to root all that out. And how beautiful that you felt the pain of quitting, of stopping short, of throwing the towel. Now, as you push forward into that great unknown, you have a reminder, a benchmark to compare with the difficulty of the present moment. You can silence the voice in your head begging you to slow down because you now know what the alternative looks like.
Oh.
To put it simply, you are not the same person you were yesterday. Specifically because of what you've been through. You have those mistakes to thank for the meaningful road you will travel. And let that be the expectation. We don't get through life without mistakes. There is no perfect journey. And the ones who move courageously into the future know that more than anyone. Life pushes back. The world has a say, and sometimes that means we must be humbled along the way. It means we swing and miss. It means plans fall apart.
Yeah, I am fucking obsessed.
But you will prevail. Maybe not immediately, but eventually.
But we're not done.
Because you perceive the adversity as merely a cost of admission. Specifically because you don't let it run loops in your mind. Rather, you extract the value and transform it into momentum. You are not your past. You are what you decide to make of your past. Empowerment is knowing that you have control of your life. That you create the expectations and you carry them out. Whether it be tomorrow, in a month, in a year, or even longer. It's knowing that the image in your head is the standard. It's fact. Because when you leave the door open, when you leave the door to your ambitions cracked, even the smallest amount, the realities of the present moment, they find their way in and they create dissonance. They want you to see, they want you to be intimidated by the gap between what you have and what you want. And truly, the greatest gift I've ever given myself is to start every pursuit knowing that whatever I'm chasing, whatever it is I want to obtain, it will be reality. It's possible. Period. That's my starting point. All I have to do is connect the dots. No questions, just steps. So there's a certainty that I possess as I move on to the next level. And as a creator, whether I'm creating for, my YouTube channels, collaborations, clients, it doesn't really matter. There's a common theme.
One set at
And it's that the world can't see the image you have in your head until you complete it, upload it, share it, email the final result. You know what the outcome will be in a way that just can't be expressed or articulated. It can only be shown upon completion, and you must be the one to show it. But the reason that's so significant is because there's no difference between making a film or realizing a dream. Either way, there's no rewards, there's no applause, there's no assurances until you're done. Until you've crossed the finish line. Just like a client can only point to things they've seen as a reference point. Well, the people around you, they only know the present moment. They only know how things are. And so it's borderline crazy to put those opinions on a pedestal, right? To absorb that criticism, to adhere to those rules. They navigate around the now, the present, not the future, not where you're going. Right? Who cares about the now? You'll just be looking back at it as you make your way onto your next goal. See, all this circles back to those dots that need to be connected. Because the places you're going, the things you're becoming, they require three things. The understanding that all problems have solutions, the certainty that you will find them, and the persistence to power through. That's all. That's the mentality that will put you in a position to do anything you want. It will empower you. It's not that the people around you are dumb or that the world wants you to fail. It's just that placing your fate in their hands is meaningless. To discount your dream based on how things are, or the opinion of someone else, is like a pilot worrying about airspace he's already flown.
God.
Or asking a random dude in seat 22B to fly the plane, right? They are passengers on the journey. A journey that is worth the climb, that will be rewarding, that is waiting, but you have to be the one to see it, and you have to see it before the world does. You have to believe it before anyone else will. Because you'll build brick by brick on a foundation that the rest of the world would simply walk right by. Why? Because right now it's not a skyscraper with a beautiful architecture, 50 floors and an incredible view. Right now it's an ordinary plot of land that no one would think twice about. So remember, yes, it's possible. Yes, there is a way. And when we focus on the vision and connecting the dot in front of you, the world opens up. Be your own biggest fan. Learn to cherish the sound of your own applause, because that is always what must come first. I find it interesting that what we want most is often brought about by the inverse
Here we go.
of what we'd expect. It's a paradox that's amazed me for much of my adult life. What do I mean? Well, here are a few examples. The best way to achieve freedom in your life is to be incredibly disciplined. Two things that are seemingly opposite in a sense. Or that the worst of times often open the door to the best of times. Or it's from a position of strength that one is best able to ensure peace. Or from our suffering, our pain, comes our purpose and contentment. And you get the point. I could go on and on and on. But the reason this is so important, why I think it's worth discussing, is that it sheds light on the value hidden within our struggles. You know, when you realize the paradoxical nature of growth, the discomfort makes a little more sense. It's easier to wrap our hands around. So let's say getting up early. Perhaps you weren't a morning person, but you're trying. You're trying because you think those few extra hours in the morning will add some lift. Right? The alarm clock goes off. The last thing you want to do is open your eyes. Maybe you even start thinking, who cares, right? This isn't that important. You begin rationalizing ways you'll go back to bed and just make up throughout the day. So when you simplify the equation, you realize what you have is an opportunity.
Oh my.
And you're either going to say yes and capitalize on that opportunity, or say no and stay where you are. Discipline, even with the small, seemingly trivial stuff, becomes freedom. And if you want to position yourself for a life on your terms, where you're at the wheel on your schedule, it means facing demons just like this.
Alright, chat, how many is this? Let's add it.
It means you fight your
30
fight
times
now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is
Rather than
210
saying,
plus
"I wish,"
80
or beating yourself up for not
is
being a little bit
290.
tougher in the moment.
So we're at 290.
You instead get that sense of accomplishment. You get the luxury of time.
We're on our way to 444.
And I
50
think
pounds
that's a simple but perfect
tricep
example
cable rope extensions. As you can
of how
see by the
discomfort in
tricep
one moment becomes contentment in future moments.
right now, they are
Not a
working.
very intuitive trade-off.
These extensions are doing their
So how
job.
about our low points?
My
We all
arm
know no
is
one
very
escapes
swollen.
low points. I've always found them easier to handle and
it
internalize
feels
when I know that
really
it's
good.
bringing me closer to something valuable.
Oh,
When I know that there's something good on the
Okay.
other side, and that the pain
Next
I'm
set.
feeling, the thoughts
Here we go.
that are inevitably going to pass through my mind like clouds on a windy day, they're obviously not ideal, but they're not a waste either, because something will come of them. And the goal in that moment, under the duress, is not to move the immovable. After all, you can only control what you can control. But it's to simply put one foot in front of the other until you emerge from the storm, because we all eventually emerge from that storm. It's when we get into the habit of trying to do what is outside the scope of our control that we do ourselves a disservice. Because look, we're human. Equipped with human biology and human emotions, navigating a tough world that is indifferent to how we feel or what we think. And while we can certainly strengthen and fortify that emotional IQ, the reality is no one is on a high all the time. Life is ups and downs. And when we realize our superpower is not to fight the down times, but to accept them, take them in stride, learn from them, and extract the value, we empower ourselves. We're giving ourselves permission to live life just a little fuller after what we've experienced.
Oh God,
The
here
human
we are.
experience requires many seemingly contradictory puzzle pieces all working together in unison to create the final illustration we're looking for. Not just discipline and freedom, not just low points and high points, but countless.
Oh, fucker, up.
Jordan Peterson, of course, famously discusses chaos and order, and how both not only exist, but are pivotal to a fulfilling life. We are designed for chaos. We must step out into unknowns, situations that feel bigger than us. The courage to do so ultimately becomes the pathway to order. As we get used to the change, we acclimate, we find our answers, and ultimately create a sense of fulfillment. The challenge being that now we have conquered our demon, we must prepare for the next. Because just like too much chaos isn't good, too much order is equally destructive. Right? Another example of something we'd assume as negative. Chaos. Being the thing in actuality that paves the way for better days. It's a staircase. I've heard Tony Robbins say something similar when talking about our need for both certainty and uncertainty.
Oh my God.
We must have some elements of everyday life mapped out, but too
I still
much
have like 200 left.
creates a mundane existence without the adventure and growth we've been looking for. It's from the unknown we capture more of ourselves. It's from the uncertainty we get growth. And I say all of this, not just because I think it's fascinating in and of itself, but because it's incredibly easy to forget, especially in the thick of things, that it's all essential to life working the way it should work. Those losses become gains. The disappointment becomes growth. The down times become launching pads to evolved experiences, greater adventures, and new chapters. It's certainly not intuitive to look in the mirror when amidst life's chaos and say thank you to the universe. I get that. I'm not implying that you should. But I am saying it helps to know, it helps to be aware of the paradoxical nature of your journey. I look back at the times I was most fearful or angry at myself. And if I could go back and tell that version of me one thing, it would be that all that adversity is going to push me forward. That I'd never have the things I wanted most if I didn't step into all that discomfort. That it's going to be okay. That I'm going to be incredibly thankful for it all, and so will you. This is the push-pull of life. The chaos and order of the day. It is not in spite of, but because of those moments, you'll be more than you've ever been. The human experience is a paradox. And the quicker we get that, the quicker we let it work for us. No more fighting unwinnable wars, but rather taking all that we can control and using it to lift ourselves up, to be our best selves, to make tomorrow the miracle that it can be. What is the difference? When I think back, the first time I deviated from my routine, I lost the certainty in my life. And as much as I wanted to go back, I remember telling myself one more day. Just one more day until someday became the current day, and that made all the difference. Day one, starting my company, I remember turning the camera on and feeling so lost saying words into a microphone that I almost didn't press record. But I did. Until one day I realized not only was it bearable, it was my purpose. The vehicle that transported my thoughts to the world, and that made all the difference. During the time when some of the projects I invested the most time and energy into flopped, I remember almost saying, this isn't for me. But I kept creating. I kept creating until I found that intersection of what I love and what adds value to the world, and that made all the difference. What's crazy is how small a decision that difference seems in the moment, how insignificant the decision feels as one stands and looks out from their doorway. The difference between going and not going stepping out or staying in, making the move or waiting one more day. That difference is sometimes disguised in a cloak of triviality, but do not be fooled. The little decision to move forward, to hang on when your ego is screaming at you to just let go, walk away, find some semblance of comfort and predictability. Those decisions to endure in the moments of hardship are what we come to look back on as the turning points that reshaped and redefined life as we know it. The courage required to make the call, release the video, register the business, send the message, reconnect with that loved one, deviate from what your friends are doing. All those things, they may seem small enough now to spend a minute or two thinking about before moving on to our routines and what we are comfortable doing. After all, it's easy to disregard the small things, but the acorn that becomes the oak tree is small. We must, along with the current reality, see the potential in what those things become. Ensure there are times where the present and the ideal are so different that it seems almost incomprehensible. But how do we get there? We get there by making the little decisions that will ultimately make the greatest difference. You are always one decision away from that evolution. So next time you find yourself looking down at the stuff in front of you, the step you know in your soul is the right step. Remind yourself, yes, it sure would be away here.
Fuck, Trav,
It
two.
sure would be easy to
Aye.
yeah, it's just one.
Yeah.
But in totality, it's exponentially more than that. It's the lifeblood of your new reality. The water to your seed, the oxygen to your lungs, the crossroads in front of you will be, with your permission, the beginning of something larger than life. It will ultimately be the difference.
Oh, God. All right, add it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times 30 is 380. Holy
When our
shit.
backs are against the wall,
I am
we're forced
64 away. I'll do it in
when
2
the clock
sets.
is ticking, we are
30 and
tasked
34.
with finding answers that hide among us.
And I'll
In the
make sure I
darkness,
added
we
it right
find light,
after.
and while lost, we find ourselves.
You know, this has been one of the best
paradox
sessions
of
I've
life
had
is that
in
from
quite
our pain
some time.
comes our purpose, our evolution, and our greatness.
And I'm still injured. I should have my MRI today. And y'all could call me
I love
crazy,
thinking
but
back,
I'm not putting any
about 24
downward heavy pressure
making my way
pushing
around
down on that
Boston,
sciatic nerve. All these
trying to
exercises
do
are
my
very
job,
planned out
essentially
strategically in my head.
purposeless.
And yes, you can still be obsessed with an injury. You can work around it. You can work around an injury if you want it bad enough, if you want to continue to persevere and come out of the storm stronger, or at least maintain.
Well, because at the time, I knew nothing. I understood nothing. Nothing about speaking or media, audio, video, nothing about running a business. But more importantly, I knew very little about life and what's truly required to progress in a world with infinite moving parts. I didn't know that my lack of understanding is what made everything feel overwhelming and complex, and that it was up to me to simplify. I didn't know the extent to which I'd have to befriend failure. And that was the most eye-opening realization. Because when you gravitate towards a risk-free existence and you box yourself in, as I had for so long, of course you don't get the upside, but you also don't fail as dramatically either. Life was a simple game of cause and effect. Do work, get results, not much room for more than that. And so stepping outside that box in the way that I did changed some rules. I learned some things. First, you can spend time on something, you can exhaust energy on something, and get nothing in the short term for your effort. And I mean nothing. Unless you count getting your pride stomped on. Unless you count your friends disappearing when you need them most. Unless you count self-doubt and a constant worry about not amounting to anything. I mean, these are very raw, very real human emotions. They tend to arise when we start something new, but in them is also the power. This is where the light bulb turns on and the path emerges. It's where I learned that we only get what we want when we endure what we don't. And what a foreign concept when you think about it. Right? It's like, Eddie, take this mic. Go stand in front of this audience and pour your heart out. Your knees are shaking, chest is pounding, but dude, trust me, it'll be good for you. And funny enough, it was. It was because the fear in my stomach became the indicator that something new, something exciting, something more was around the corner. Like Pavlov's dog hearing that bell. Anytime the fear kicked in, I could feel myself getting closer to something meaningful, to a higher version of myself. The pain is an invite. The sheer terror, and let's face it, that's what it feels like sometimes, it's an upgrade. Disguised as the monster that you think you should be running from. When it is, as I recently mentioned, the adversary you should befriend. We have to change our relationship with discomfort because our initial understanding, the one that comes stock in our minds, is never sufficient to build anything of significance. Its default setting is to preserve the now. Ourselves to find ourselves. We must embrace our fears if we are to become courageous. We must fail in order to succeed. And sure, sometimes the price seems steep. But I promise, not going costs more. Wishing costs more. If onlys cost more. So maybe for you it isn't a YouTube channel or a speaking career, maybe it's something totally different. But it is something. And should you bring yourself to pursue that which your heart pulls you to pursue, you'll have those moments of defeat, where you're mad at yourself for leaving the comfort and safety of your previous world. You'll have times where you have no idea what to do, where you feel alone or stuck or unsure. The difference will be whether you see this as the invite you've been waiting for or the reason to turn around and settle for less. That's the question. How do you internalize all that emotion that will feel like it is consuming you? I couldn't believe how strong that temptation was to go back. Nagging at me every day, just come off the edge, just be comfortable again. But as my old coach would say in college, when we're doing wall sits or something physically taxing, 15 seconds. You can do anything for 15 seconds. And isn't life just a culmination of 15-second windows? It's compartmentalizing the process. It's turning the difficult into the advantageous. You have the ability to not think like everyone else. You have it within you to rewire your previous conceptions of the world, to see darkness not as your reason to hide from conjured up monsters, but as your invitation to become the light. Remember that the best way to be more is to have the courage to put your back against the wall. And you won't want to in the moment. There will never be a perfect time. But committing to that vulnerability will release from within you the power, the strength, the greatness that has been for so long tucked away. By moving into the chaos, you are simultaneously creating the calm you always dreamed of. You're realizing the possibility that just needed the door left ajar to make its way into your world. Don't you dare reach for your pocket, I told myself. In fact, take that phone and go put it in another room. Shut your internet off, set your devices to do not disturb, and think. Please, think. You are losing yourself to distraction. Or as Cal Newport puts it, you know, we're in a world that demands more thought, more deep work than ever before, while we all simultaneously become more and more incapable of that focus. And to me, it feels like more than a chuckle at our outrageous screen time or a self-deprecating joke about how reliant we are on our phones, the dopamine hit. You know, I think it's antithetical overall to what we need, to where we find our purpose. Which is a dichotomy that's frustratingly true with so many things. Like that balance. For me to have a digital business that means so much to me, that I'm so proud of, but also tiptoeing around that same digital world like it's a hungry lion capable of devouring me. Like that's a real feeling. It's water that's foundational for life, but in too large a quantity will kill. It's the sun that, while integral and responsible for this planet as we know it, also has no problem ending, you know, anything that's too openly exposed to its rays, to its heat. There's always a sweet spot between too much and not enough. Like that happy medium, that intersection is why we're all here. Because when I don't take time to deeply think, when I lose the big picture, I remain in a cycle of routine. And sometimes that's great, right? Morning routine is great. I don't really have to think about it. I'm programmed. Things like driving a car, as Doohy explains in The Power of Habit. Your foot stepping on the gas. It's involuntary, and thank God for that. But one must be able to step outside that loop and ask the big picture question. We have to make time to at least roughly chart the course. And it'll change. Life will present its obstacles, but we'll have at least parsed out what matters and what doesn't. When life is all habit and reflex, when you've lost the ability to examine the self because 1 minute alone with your thoughts is agonizing.
I'm gonna hit this last set so I can accomplish the 444, and then I gotta take a quick break, chat. I won't be too long. I'm gonna actually eat some chicken
complaining about perhaps the most
and do some stretching.
society ever.
Last 34 though, here we go.
Saying, you know, there are some dangers that we way too easily overlook. That when you outsource your thinking, you outsource your future. And it's not hard to fall into that trap. I just referenced the book Deep Work a few minutes ago. I think it's one of the most important books someone can read in this day and age. You know, Cal Newport talking about separating ourselves from distraction. Now, I remember the day I first listened to that book, I was sick, so I wasn't on my usual run. I was walking, and because of that, I felt this urge to, as the book was playing, to reach into my pocket and check for notifications. And it really was eye-opening. It's like we are scared to completely immerse ourselves in solitude. But solitude is where we uncover so much. Silence is where we hear what our souls have to say. It's where we understand who we are. My favorite Joseph Campbell quote, "The cave you fear holds the treasure you seek." And man, I hate to say it, but I think being alone, even for a short period of time, is that monster lurking in the cave. You know, the one we're scared to confront, even though it's what we need. Solitude is the demon we are consistently masking in a constant
Holy
influx of
shit.
media and small talk.
200
and
pull-ups,
email.
1,000 pull-downs, 444
That stuff has its
tricep
value,
extensions.
but it's not real. In the
Russ.
sense that I find it disconnected from purpose. So here's something that I've been doing, and you know, I would
Hard
suggest
work
that
works.
you give it a try. It's been certainly helpful in my
Hard
life,
work
and
works.
start small, even if it's 15
There's a
minutes.
lot more
Take
to
a
it,
walk
but
by
hard
yourself.
work works.
No phone.
And it's not all about the
And it's
weight,
challenging
as we've
first
learned
because,
tonight.
You know, you want to be consuming
Holy
something. even
shit,
if
I
it's,
feel pumped.
you know, educational, valuable. Still, right? No phone. Solitude. Think about
Whoa.
life.
All right.
Think
I'll
about
be
who you
RB.
are. Think about what you've always wanted and where your current reality aligns. Think about how much you have and how lucky you are. Think about any or all of these things, but think. Let your mind go where, amidst the push and pull of life, you don't often let it wander. For example, some thoughts from my walk today, some of it random, sporadic noise, some of it more valuable than others, but all of it valuable because the process in its entirety is valuable. You know, I spent some time thinking about the week ahead, the things I'm excited about and how to prepare for them, and realized one of them I didn't want to do. I then had that debate with myself, well, do I not want to do it because it doesn't align with my goals or because it makes me uncomfortable? Came to the conclusion that I think it's the latter, so it's staying in my schedule, but I'll reassess. I thought about Florida. I consistently think about how lucky I am to be down here after living in so many cold places. It's just such a beautiful environment, and you know, one that I don't take for granted. I thought about a statement I just heard from a professional athlete after his surgery, talking about how hard it was on him, but that he would rise from the ashes and he would have the best year of his life. And you know, my mind went to one of the most important rules of leadership, that it's not about you or your rise or fall, right? To lead is to make it about the team, about the overall goal. And how grateful I was to come across that video, to see that and really dissect it. You know, sometimes the best ways we learn is by seeing what not to do, right? And I'll take that with me. I'll take that understanding with me on my own journey. Last thing I remember, I thought about some of the books I've been consuming. I've taken in an insane amount of books over the years, but I've practically stopped reading physical books, right? And now I consume mostly on Audible or other audiobook methods. Made me wonder whether the value is equivalent, how much that varies from person to person, maybe something to research later, right? That's all I remember as I sit here now. But the point is, you know, this is stuff that if I don't immerse myself in solitude and break through the barrier of boredom, I don't get to. You know, and maybe you go through a week where you don't find much. But as the saying goes, right, one idea, one concept, one epiphany can truly change the dynamic of your life. It can change everything, right? There are answers just beyond the realm of distraction we operate in. Some of them pertain to trivialities like the audiobooks and the cold front. Some of them pertain to your goals and your development, who you are, where you're going, and how you'll get there. As Newport says, to simply wait and be bored has become a novel experience in modern life. And while his emphasis and focus is primarily on work and creating an environment to be productive, I want to suggest that it's not only our work that needs saving, but ourselves. We can't lose touch with what matters most. We can't become so shallow in our thoughts and our actions that the beauty remains buried away. There is something in you that's untapped, unfinished, raw talent or desire. There are pieces of you that need to be assembled. And if left alone, will wither away, unremarkably, quietly, and probably without your noticing. So my ask is that you think of this as more than, me cheering on long walks. It's not about the walks, right? It's about time alone with yourself and what that opens up for you. It's about recognizing the spaces we need to carve out from the outside world, so that when we re-enter the outside world, we know who we are. We understand where we're headed. We don't go where the wind blows. We are able, as the saying goes, to adjust our sails to get to our destination. All you need is more time with you. What's one thing I wish I knew when I was younger that I think people could benefit from today? What single piece of information could have the biggest impact? I spent some time thinking about this question, and the more I think about it, the more the answer becomes incredibly apparent. It's that you are in control of your own life, your own destiny, your own future. And when you take accountability for yourself, life changes. Period. And if you thought that was obvious, I would advocate taking a look around. Maybe a stroll through social media, the Twitters and Instagrams and TikToks of today. And no, that's not the real world, but it's certainly a microcosm of the real world. What do you see? Well, you see chronic blame. I don't like where I'm at or things are, so that must be your fault or their fault or someone else's fault.
1,000.
You see people looking everywhere but in the mirror.
444.
Actually seeking out victimhood. Because that's what brings the attention. That's today's currency. It's much easier to be the victim than the hero, because being the hero means you have to sacrifice something.
Cable.
It's people saying the news or some institution or the federal government is the problem.
Straight bar.
And if those things would only change, then we'd be good.
Pull-ups. 1,000.
Let me explain why I think this mentality is self-sabotage.
Cable, abdominal, pull-downs.
And why I would take younger me by the hand and I would say, listen to what I'm about to tell you. Where you start is often outside of our control. Let's be real, life is not fair. We don't all get dealt the same hand. But this next part, as I once heard Will Smith articulate beautifully, is the same for everyone. What you decide to do about it right now is what matters. And that is the control that we all have. It's not your fault where you start,
Now,
but it's your responsibility to choose where you end up. You can shake your fist at the sky, or you can start building a life that matters to you. It's easy to blame the world, to be the victim, at least in the short term. But a fulfilling life is about meaning, about fighting for something valuable, about evolving into the version of yourself that you always knew in your heart you could be. You just had to unlock. See, no one down the road was ever happy with themselves for blaming the world while they bitterly remained stagnant. I would say to a younger me, worry less about how you're perceived and think more about who you are, what you're capable of, because that you can always stop losing yourself in the news or whatever the narrative of the day is. That has nothing to do with your progression, has nothing to do with your very next step. So sure, be informed, but do more, consume less. Because by and large, it's a distraction. And I would say the government, which has become the crux of our discourse today, transforming into a modern day religion. Look, the government's job is not to give you anything. It's there to protect what's inherent to you already. Your right to live life on your terms. See, satisfaction will come from good habits. It will come from self-belief. It will come from taking risks and failing and learning. It will come from the courage to step out into a world that's completely unknown. It will never come from a self-interested politician or body in Washington, red or blue. So stop whining about political optics and focus on where your 2 feet are taking you right now. Because I promise in the grand scheme of things, that's what matters. That is your strength.
okay.
Change your life is like screaming into an abyss. I would say to my younger self, when you start looking around and seeing what everyone else has, and beating yourself up for not being as good or feeling like you're behind, look, it's great that their success motivates you, but dwelling on it won't make your life better. Life is a race between you and you. It's a fight between yourself and those thoughts that constantly knock on the door, looking to settle into your psyche. If you defeat that demon, you'll be where you want to be, regardless of where others are. You're right where you need to be, so keep your head up and keep moving forward. I'd explain that to become something more, to change, requires a sacrifice that feels so substantial, so big at first, that it bullies most people to stay right. That to become something new, you have to learn to play the fool, to get humbled. You have to change your relationship with short-term failure. And that's not easy. But taking control of your life is not supposed to be easy. Only worth it. They're different. And I can certainly look back at my own life, think about the times where I was so busy pointing out that I didn't even think to point the finger at myself. I was so worried about life being unfair that I existed in this temporary state of paralysis. The whole time not knowing that I could have been stepping forward. Could have been tapping into the single greatest power I possess, control over my own life. See, every time you feel anger or the need to blame those around you, you're taking the spotlight off of what matters and placing it on things detrimental. You didn't get that promotion you were beyond qualified for, or you were mistreated by someone, or things didn't go the way you wanted them to. You can fill in that blank, but refusing to blame others and immediately taking responsibility, again, even in a situation like that, it gives you one of the greatest advantages in life. It gives you that gift of control. You can now assess the situation. You can now ask yourself, hey, what can I do to change this? You can delve into the why, find the lessons and the value. you can come back and reapproach this thing stronger. Because to blame others, to take on that role of victim, it's essentially living life in the passenger seat. It might be easier, might be less work, less responsibility, but what you never have is control over where that car goes. But when you own it, when you say, hey, maybe it's not my fault, but look, it's mine now. It's my responsibility, the good, the bad, every aspect of my life. It puts you in position to change things, to take the wheel and reroute to a destination of your choosing. So that would be my message to the world. I know it's not an easy road. I know life is unfair. I know things aren't perfect, but the best thing you can ever do for yourself is say, you know what, this is mine to own. And I'm going to look around for that light switch that will create momentum. That little decision that will get the ball rolling. I'm not going to sit back, shake my fist, and blame life. I'm going to walk out that door and create life. That's where you'll find what you're truly looking for. Can life change in a day? Well, what if we made today a day of action? Of being decisive, of promising ourselves that our goal or objective is to make a single move, however small. What if today action is king? And we live by the notion that whether the result of our courage is good or bad, whether it's the result we hoped for or the one that we didn't, at least now we have something to work off of. And that means we've moved beyond where we started. What if today we live by the notion that a vision can change our lives? But a vision without that small step is powerless. And today we take that small step. It's easy to forget how good progress feels. How incredible it is to know that we're moving towards something meaningful in our lives. Something that we chose, that we're building. We had the courage to break life down so that piece by piece we could build it back up. We are our happiest when we are progressing. We're designed to map out the unknown, unexplored territory to make it our own. We're not just flesh and bone, but travelers with godlike capability of seeing that which is not yet there. And with an idea and courage, there's nothing we can't do. And that's why when we stop seeing infinite opportunity, when we pretend that settling is okay, that the status quo is enough, we know deep down in our souls that something's missing. We need the next door to unlock. So today, let's find just one door that we can open. Remind yourself of the shock wave that goes through your system when inspiration guides an idea and progress turns that idea into reality, because momentum connects every aspect of life. Not hitting the snooze button can mean seeing the sunrise, which can mean you read 3 pages in a book you wouldn't have read, which could mean your day improves, which could mean you make a call that you've been meaning to make, which could mean a dozen wheels start turning, not because you did everything, but because you did one thing. Today can be the day that changes your life. And you don't even need the miraculous to happen. You just need to push back against the normalcy of your everyday. Create little microcosms of chaos that you can tame, understand, make your own, and then stack that little voice of uneasiness or nervousness in your stomach as assurance that the path before you is the right one. Remember that almost all decisions are reversible, but that a decision at least puts you somewhere, right or wrong. It moves you along and shows you more of life, the things, the people, the places you've never seen before. And the only bad decision is no decision. Some folks never move towards meaning, towards the things that they want in, well, their entire lifetime. Because they didn't realize it wasn't an earthquake they needed to shake the old world and its foundation. They needed to make one decision. One decision that might be wrong, but at the very least would reassure them that wrong decisions aren't fatal. A decision allows you to remap a new reality and take another step and another and another. You can change your life today by taking your remote and simply saying, you don't need to be the best or the greatest or the most innovative today. Today, if you want to change your life, open the door and step in. They get that dead will beat me, sometimes you can. And when she points out, sometimes they're even thought to be crazy by those who can't. In this life, no one comes up, places a hand on your shoulder and pronounces that your future is bright. No one looks you in the eyes and says they can see the life you'll build, one will make or break. No, that doesn't happen until the next one. The one you create. So patience, quiet believer, the abstract is just as real as the hand in front of you. Just road. The sun will feel at night. recognition from the masses and a place in history because, quiet believer, looking back, if you found the courage to change even one
All right, chat.
thing,
That's gonna wrap it up tonight.
every second.
I am so hungry. I'm gonna eat chicken and a smoothie. Stay blessed. Don't stress. You weren't born to just impress. Be you wholeheartedly, unapologetically. Chase your dreams, chase your goals. Do not just chase a paycheck. And better yet, do not even just chase them, catch them. Don't listen to the haters, my mans. They're secretly your biggest fans. Uh-oh. Trust the process. Stay clear. Naysayers are everywhere. Persevere. There's a lot on my mind right now. A lot happening inside me. Everything is sore, but it's the good sore feeling, and oh, I miss it.
There has
I want to like soak in Epsom salt.
When it's now or never.
Real bad. I'm gonna eat
When
chicken.
you look at your reflection and realize that the cost of waiting
And take a
is far
hot shower.
more expensive than the cost of stepping
I gotta
out
use the Castle
into
Flex
the vast unknown.
before bed.
In
Thanks
every
everybody for
journey,
tuning in
that's when
tonight.
life effectively
What a crazy session.
starts.
1,000 abdominal pull downs, 200 pull-ups,
But here's why this is
and
so
444 tricep
It's
extensions
caught me off guard so many times in my life.
with 50
It's the
pounds
many
and 100
shapes
pounds
that
for the cable
waiting
extensions.
takes.
Take care
See,
now.
waiting is not always
Have a
sitting
great
there and doing nothing,
rest
not
of your
at all.
evening or morning or afternoon.
Sometimes waiting is just the bare minimum. It's moving forward so slightly and so slowly that you can essentially trick yourself into thinking that you're progressing.